I'm gonna do it. Who over the DJ?
I'll pass it. Thank you.
You can have it.
No, I guess this is the one.
It's like they're showing more of the bricks that I got my dad and my granddad.
Oh,
Yeah, they, yeah.
There you go, there's one to be Marcus. I mean.
You had a promotion. And who am I? Who am I? Oh, okay.
Oh, I could do that.
Yeah, really far back.
Good evening. I'd like to call this regularly scheduled January 13, 2022 organizational meeting of the Bedford County School Board to order. Mrs. Johnson, would you please call the roll?
Mrs. Hairston? Here. Mr. Hill?
Here.
Mr. Holbrook?
Here.
Mrs. Kirby?
Here.
Mr. Leamy?
Here.
Dr. Mealy?
Here.
Mr. Nelms?
Here.
Mr. Superintendent, there is a quorum present.
Thank you. Is there a motion to approve the agenda?
So moved.
Thank you. A motion by Mr. Leamy. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Mr. Hill. Any discussion? Hearing none, I'll now call for a vote. All those in favor of the agenda as presented, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you. The agenda is approved. It's now my distinct honor to open the floor up for nominations for Chair of the School Board. By way of reminder, a second is not required. Who would like to make a nomination?
I nominate Susan Kirby to serve as Chair 2020 calendar year.
Thank you, Mr. Leamy. Any other nominations? Hearing none, all those in favor of Mrs. Kirby serving as your next chair, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Congratulations, Mrs. Kirby, on your election as chair of the school board.
Thank you.
I am now delighted to turn this gavel over to you to preside over the remainder of the meeting.
Thank you, Dr. Berger.
You're welcome.
Well, following suit, I would like to call for nominations for vice chair for the calendar year 2022.
Madam Chairman, I nominate Marcus Hill to serve as Vice Chair for calendar year 2022.
Thank you, Mr. Leamy. Any other nominations? Okay, can we call for a vote? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Congratulations, Mr. Hill.
Thank you.
Do I have a motion to go into closed session?
Madam Chair, pursuant to Code of Virginia 2.2-3711A18, 1, to discuss the assignment, appointment, performance, discipline, and release of contract for specific school board employees, including the evaluation of the superintendent as provided in his contract of employment, and 8, for consultation with legal counsel retained by the school board for legal advice concerning health and safety mitigation strategies and school board policy KLB.
Okay, I have a motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
We are now in closed session.
That's what it looks like.
Do I have a motion to come out of closed session?
Madam Chairman, I make a motion that we come out of closed session.
Do I have a second?
Second.
All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Ms. Johnson, will you certify the meeting?
Whereas the Bedford County School Board has convened a closed meeting on this date pursuant to an affirmative recorded vote and in accordance with the provisions of the Virginia Freedom of Information Act. And whereas Section 2.2-3712D of the Code of Virginia requires a certification by this school board that such closed meetings were conducted in conformity with Virginia law. Now therefore be it resolved that the Bedford County School Board hereby certifies that, to the best of each member's knowledge, only public business matters lawfully exempted from open meeting requirements by Virginia law were discussed in the closed meeting to which the certification applies, and only such public business matters as were identified in the motion convening the closed meeting were heard, discussed, or considered.
Yes.
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 Yes. Yes.
Thank you.
Okay, and just to clarify, while we were in closed session, we had time to also address item 12.01. So that is eliminated from the agenda. Moving on to staff reports, Mr. Hagler, second quarter financial projection.
Good evening. In front of you in the documents, but also a PowerPoint, is the second quarter financial projections for the year. So I'll walk you through the data that we had as of December 31st and projecting out the rest of the year. On the first slide is the revenue projections. You can see what was the actual for the previous year, the budget for the current year, then the supplemental or projected appropriations or supplemental appropriations that will be later in the meeting that I'm bringing forward to the board tonight, the revised budget, and then the projection. Not much change with the other category. That's local money that we collect. The state was, it's a pretty big change in the state. The way the formula works with the state is if the sales tax increases or decreases, it has a direct correlation to the basic aid. So you can see sales tax going up and the basic aid going down. So really, on the most part, they offset each other on that. On the federal side, projecting a little bit more than the adjusted budget. So overall, projecting about $504,000 more than the adjusted budget by the end of the year. The supplemental appropriations and some of the things that are listed down below. From the other, we had an insurance claim that we received some funds in. And then on the federal, you had Title I carryover that we were spending down this year, 21st Century Federal Security Grant, and the biggest part of that is the CARES Act. We're going to spend more money in that category this year for learning loss. Then there were two other things. State Security Grant we were just awarded just in the last 2 or 3 weeks. So I included that on here, and then we were granted 2 electric buses grants that we went after. One of those is we're going to receive the funding, and then we have to pay the vendor for that. So it's going to flow through, so I'm going to show that as a supplemental, so we can bring that money in and just pay that right back out to the vendor. So-
Mr. Hagler?
Yes, ma'am.
I'm so sorry. I just want to make sure I'm following you. When you're talking about like the Title I budget and that, what line were you referring to there?
Not on this, but it's on a sheet of paper.
Oh, okay, okay.
If you look at a little bit more detail on the PDF that I sent out, that's in board docs. This is a PowerPoint presentation showing the same numbers, but not all those details and footnotes, but that is on the PDF documentation. In the,
Okay, was
board
that
docs.
just put on because that did not hit my account? Did anybody else, did you all have that? You did? Okay.
I'm looking right at it.
Yeah, okay. Let me check it then. Thank you.
We'll make sure that gets,
Yeah.
if that's not there, we'll make sure. I usually put a little bit more details on that, but I want a presentation of the numbers so people in the audience and watching can look at that. But it is on board docs and anybody can pull that up. And those supplementals will be later in the meeting as action items for the board, and I can go into details on any one of those later on as we go through that. Any other questions on the revenue side? So we're looking pretty good there. Sales tax is really strong, continues to be strong, so for us and for the state and locality, so that's good news. So very, very pleased with that. On the expenditure side, this is on the operating account, plugged in the same adjustments to the budget, expenditures and revenues on the supplementals. As of right now, halfway through the year, some of these things, you're doing the best projection you can, but looking at about $750,000 below budget on that. And if you combine those two numbers, ending balance projected at about $1.2 million or so in the operating account at the end of the year. So we're looking in good shape halfway through the year. I don't see any issues in any of the categories right now. I think we were running behind in my first quarter. Maintenance was getting hit pretty hard. Some of our run rates on the electrical and water were pretty steep in that first quarter. Those have come back a little bit, so we look a lot stronger in the maintenance category than we did in the first quarter. So at this point, I don't see any issues categorically or overall in the budget for the operating. I should have forwarded that to the expenditure side.
Mr. Hager, can I say, I had neglected to put that on the board report or on board docs. I have it there now. If you just want to refresh board docs, it is there.
Okay,
So
thank
my
you,
apologies.
thank you.
And so that's the expenditure side up there for the public to take a look at on that PowerPoint. Going to go into some of the other accounts, other funds. That was the operating. That's the main one we're watching where most of our expenditures come out of. On the nutrition side, I'm happy to report, if you look at that, and usually at mid-year, we're running behind because we have a lot of expenses at the beginning of the year and it takes time for the revenues to catch up. With any child coming through the line getting a free lunch right now through the federal government, we have a lot more people coming through, a lot more participation, we're receiving a lot more revenue. So year to date, and I did not have the number for the December revenue number, that'll come in January, so this does not even include the revenue for December, but it does include the expenses. We're $14,000 to the good in the nutrition fund. So we're looking a lot better this year than we have. We've been having slight losses over the last 2 or 3 years. We had a very good reserve, so that's not an issue, but long-term we'll have to watch that. And so in future years, when we get back to a normal sales and federal level, we'll have to continue to watch that, but this year it looks very strong. The textbook fund, have some numbers there. One number I'll point out, there is a reappropriation number of $2 million. That's going to come before this board tonight as reappropriating leftover money from last year. If this board approves it, I'll take it to the Board of Supervisors and they'll have to approve that. But yeah, if that all goes well, that $2 million, if you look further down, will be used. It's an estimated amount for adoption, textbook adoption. Dr. Woodford, I think it's science and
Reading.
reading is what they're looking at right now. And there's a big process to go through before you adopt any new textbooks. So at the end of the year, about 1.1 left in the textbook fund. Maintenance reserve. Sorry. The maintenance reserve, you can see we started with about 1.1 million. Budget appropriations, some of that is CARES Act money, some of that is local money. Supplemental appropriations is mostly CARES Act money there that we're spending now. And then our year-to-date expenditures as of December 31st, and then we have ongoing projects. If you look at the PDF document, you can see some of the projects that are slotted, that are ongoing, that haven't been fully paid out yet. So there's a lot more detail in that PDF document than on the screen. So ending balance around 2.7 million. We have quite a few CIP projects still in queue. We've got more HVAC projects that are in queue, and so a lot of that money is in the CIP plan, which I'm not presenting on tonight. That's under Dr. Dewis. A lot of that money is going to be used next year, and it's already we've got it earmarked. We just haven't put it out for bid or anything, but the maintenance reserve fund is looking very strong here. One bit of bad news tonight. I won't say bad, but our self-funded health insurance fund started the year with about 6.2 million in the bank. We're down about 5.7 as of the end of December. December, we got hit pretty hard, and so we saw a little bit of eroding of our reserves there. We'll have to continue to watch that, but typically in a self-insured health fund, 1 out of 8 years, you get hit pretty hard. This might be our year where it gets hit hard, and the other years we've kind of increased our reserves, and we are ahead of the game by December. This time we're a little bit behind. Just to make sure the board members feel secure about this, our run-out claims for both dental and health would be in the neighborhood of $2.5 million estimated. That means if you stop being self-insured and you went fully insured, you'd have to pay out all the claims that are lagging behind. So you can see we've got quite a bit more on that, so we can sustain a bad year without having to make drastic changes to our premiums. But if this trend continues, we may have a premium increase for the first time in probably 3 or 4 years when we go to budget. So we're watching this, and we'll bring more data back to the board on that. But,
Question for you, Mr. Hagler.
yes, sir.
On the 1.2 million under pharmacy,
Yes, sir.
do we know how that breaks out? And what I'm asking is specifically around COVID testing. Is that included in that number?
It would be testing. It would be, but that's
Self-test,
yeah.
testing?
I would say I can get some more data on that. We do have quarterly updates from both our medical and our pharmaceutical providers. Pharmaceutical, the big driver, I'll be honest with you, is the specialty drugs that are very expensive.
Okay.
Your one script for 1 month could be $15,000 to $20,000. There's some coming that are hundreds of thousands of dollars for one script for 1 month. Those are the big driving factors. The routine and some of the testing, it might seem like a lot that we do, but it doesn't, it's not the big dollars. And so I can get some of that data. My health committee, I'll be presenting that to them. I believe we're having a meeting on the 19th, barring, hopefully we can get in and do that, and presenting to them some of the data from Anthem and also Optum, our pharmaceutical provider. And it'll show the top 10 drugs that are driving the cost.
And will it
conditions.
also break it down to what percentage of employees is driving that? And again, if it's, I'm not questioning the,
No.
the need of it. I just want to understand, you say it's $100K for maybe one medicine. Is that one employee driving that cost, or is that
Typically, it's like,
200 employees driving that cost?
if it were 200, it'd probably destroy our plan.
Okay.
So
Just
we're
wanna understand what
watching,
the
we're
run rate
watching
is.
some of those drugs coming out and concerns, and the pharmaceutical has been rising quicker than the medical
Okay.
as far as the cost. And so that's going to drive some premium increases in the future. So we're really keeping our eyes on that. I will say overall, when you look at a medical plan, we're not out of bounds on this, but sometimes 5 to 8% of your population is driving 60% of the cost.
Okay, thank you.
But that's what insurance is for. It's there for people that are going through hardship. You pull together, hopefully you don't need it, but if you do there, it's there for you. So that's typical of a plan that very few drive the overall cost. But we're still in healthy condition. We'll continue to watch this. But I wanted to brief the board that has eroded a little bit. There's a slide I added. It wasn't in the PDF document, but I added this yesterday, so if you can see the PDF file, or the PowerPoint presentation, if the board members can pull that out. I added something on Federal CARES Act fund. We've received a lot of money over the last two years. And I wanted to bring that to the board so you had an overall accounting of that and how it's been spent. And so going all the way back, when COVID first started, March of 2000, thereabouts, the county had received quite a bit of money and decided to share some with us, $1.5 million. We received a Federal CARES Act, $1.2 million. We went after a competitive grant where we had to apply $266,000. The CRF was Corona Relief Funds. We received that in December of that one we received, and we had like 2 months to spend it. I mean that was a real quick turnaround. ESSER 2, ESSER 3, and then the last one was the American Recovery Plan, HVAC, for HVAC. So kind of broke it out into broad categories of where it's been spent. The items that are in yellow have not fully been expended yet. Those will be expended they're being expended now. They will continue to be expended over the 23 budget year and 24 budget year. So when you see learning loss, that large money, it's not all being spent this year, it's being spread over 3 years. And down at the bottom are the HVAC projects, where estimates come in. Some of those estimates were high. If we can shift any more money into here, we will, and try to pick up one of the other projects we couldn't fund at this time. So this is very fluid, and moving money around and trying to keep track of it and get in the right bucket and meet all the qualifications and the regulations behind all this funding. So I just wanted to make sure the board had this, the public had this, and knows how we've been spending all this money.
Madam Chairman, question.
Yes, Mr. Holman.
Mr. Adler, CARES Act funding is, and I'm sure it's going to be a finite thing, it's not going to be a forever thing.
Yes, sir.
Have we expended any of these funds on anything that we will have to eat figuratively, internally, once that money goes away?
In the existing year budget, when we went through the budget process last year, we budgeted some of the CARES Act money into this existing budget. And as I was talking to the board and leading you all through that, it's quite a bit of money, and a lot of money was there for learning loss. And so we recommended in the budget that our enrollment had gone down a little bit, so normally we would lose teachers and staffing. And we said, well, let's keep the staffing at the same level as we had last year and use CARES Act money to fund that for this year. It was my guidance to the board that you can do this, but I'll give the analogy of landing a plane. You want to come in for a smooth landing. So once you do this, you want to start pulling back in 23, you want to pull back more in 24, so when you get to 25, you're not on a cliff. You don't want a $2 million cliff. And so as we go through this budget, my recommendation is to pull back probably, it'll be the board's decision, but to pull back on how much we spent this year, whittle that back in 23, whittle back that in 24, so it's less. So when you get to 25 and it's all gone, you're not trying to find 2 million, you might be trying to find 500,000. So we're going to try to reduce that, and that would be my recommendation. If the board wants to spend a lot more, they can, but I'd like to try to bring it in and land this a little bit smoother. But yes, we are spending money that is on positions that would long-term not be sustainable without money.
All right, well, my concern is we're the potential of becoming reliant on a funding source that is going to go away eventually. That's something we need to be very mindful of that.
Some of these positions were...
Look forward.
Yes, some of these positions were to get through the COVID pandemic and probably could go away afterwards. They were kind of there for short term. The staffing of the teachers was up and above beyond our staffing standards. So it will go back, when the money's gone, it goes back to our normal staffing standards that we had before the pandemic. So it'll go back to what everybody was used to. But as you know, people get used to having extra help. It's hard to take it away. So we'll have to deal with that in future budgets, whether we want to continue to do that extra help or do we get the money to do that new revenue or cutting other programs. But yes, we are spending money that we will have to ratchet back down in the future.
All right, thank you.
And probably in position-wise, I think probably around 26 or 27 positions this year with COVID.
26 or 27 positions in which departments?
The majority, I think it's 21 or it's about 21 in teachers. There's intervention design specialists. There is a little bit of help for nursing. There was also, we added a position to help deal with all this money and this grant and all the regulations behind this, and then also additional help for special education.
All right, thank you.
Yes, sir.
Ms. Harrison?
Thank you. Mr. Hagler, just a question going back to this, the slide with the self-insured health fund.
Yes, ma'am.
Just a quick question regarding the biometric screening that employees in the past, I believe, have had to participate in.
Yes, ma'am.
Is that included under any of this particular cost here, and will it be?
That, I think you're referring to our wellness program. Our wellness program, for those of the board members, we have a wellness program. If you participate in our wellness program, you get a premium, preferred rate on your premium. If you don't, you have to pay a higher rate individually. So with that, several things are required to be in our health program, saying we're all in the same insurance pool, we're all in here together to do as best we can for this. One is that you do a health risk assessment, you earn points, and one of it is a required health physical. In the past, we had some nurses come in and do that. We're requiring people to go see their doctor now for two reasons. The biggest impact to an insurance plan is people getting to their doctor and identifying catastrophic events before they happen. That's what really saves. So knowing who your doctor is probably one of the single biggest impacts from our insurance carriers, saying is a big impact with people knowing who that doctor is. So all you have to do is go to the doctor, they'll draw blood, they'll do the biometric screening, and they send it into the health wellness provider, and you get the points for that, so you can qualify for the premium rate. So yes, that, we discontinued that when COVID hit, because people couldn't get into the doctor and complete that.
Right.
We have started that up again this year. So
And
you do
when is
have to
that going
qualify
be-
for that.
When is that due for them? When do they need to
You have to have it done, Dr. Connor's not here tonight. I think it's due by April,
by
Yeah.
because we
April?
need to know
I think so.
before the new rates go into place in June.
Okay, all right.
Is it April?
I think it's
Okay,
April.
April. So they can start in October. I think we started up September, October, and they have to April to complete.
Yeah.
So our nurses, if I understood you correctly, you said that we have done the screening in the schools for the staff.
It wasn't with our nurses, though.
Okay, it
was-
wasn't with our nurses.
It was an outside provider that would come in and do that.
Uh-huh.
And so we discontinued that, but now we went to a model that said, you get a free physical. That's part of the Affordable Care Act. You get a free physical each year. You should go do that and you get a checkup and see your doctor. Go to your physical, and that qualifies you for the plan.
Yeah. I'm just thinking of some employees and, you know, just some difficulties that they may have in terms of being able to get this done and having it accessible and available for them within the school like we've done before, or having that provided. I certainly would like to see us consider maybe bringing that back.
The overall concern I had with that model was the individual would get that, they'd get a piece of paper from that company, and they said, here's your numbers. But it didn't say, hey, you got an issue, we need to get you on medication, or you need to do this and this. Whereas a doctor looking at those numbers would say, come back in, I need to talk to you. And I'm just going based upon what others have done with wellness programs, my health insurance carrier, even our pharmaceutical and the provider the vendor that's working with us. The biggest thing that can happen is preventing catastrophic events that are very costly, if you can. And the best thing to do that is get these wellness visits, but do it with your doctor. And so that's why we moved in that direction. Because if you get data that you've got serious numbers and you don't pay attention to it, because you got it in the mail and you just discarded it, your doctor hopefully is paying much more attention to that, would get you back in the office.
And that calls for individuals. It's generally covered under their health insurance if they are
Yeah, there's no
part of
cost
our
to an annual
plan?
physical. Yes,
Okay.
ma'am. All that's covered.
All right, thank you.
So there's no cost. You're welcome. Any other questions about the second quarter forecast?
Yes, Madam Chairman. Yes, and I apologize because I'm just looking at this for the
Yes, ma'am.
first time. But on the PDF, I know we've talked about this several times, and I do believe we had board consensus for breaking out the other category under revenues. Other is 1.1 million, and I don't know what that is, how we get to that number.
Overall, when you look at our overall budget of $111 million in operating, it's under $1 million for other. That's money we collect for dual enrollment, driver's ed, nursing program, you know.
And I agree. Can we at least
They're all
make
very
a
small,
note?
but I mean, I can,
At least make a notation. I mean, I think we as board members need to know exactly where money's coming from, and I didn't know that. The other thing was that we talked about was getting a line in here that indicated with a date when that 6 million reversion was going to run out. So I assume that's in the 48 million that's down there, the reversion money. We had talked about, we're not always aware of what that date is, what year that is. I still don't know. I think it's 29.
It's in 29.
Yeah.
it's in 29.
To have it in there and as a reminder to us and to future board members that that money is running out and that 48 million would be reduced by 6 million. Again, I don't do what you do, so it's hard for me to sometimes follow what these numbers are, and I think it's incumbent upon the division to provide us with information that we know what makes up every number, simply because I don't know what you know.
In the consent agenda, I believe each month we load up details on all the expenditures and all the revenues. So you can see what's actually happening in each line item year to date. It doesn't take
Right.
that and project it forward. So this is just a snapshot, and then I take it and I say, what's going to happen over the next 6 months? So I have to, applying some analytical things to that. I can put a notation on here about the reversion and the timing of that. This is really a snapshot of the current year. The reversion is like each and every year for the next.
Right. But
This
that
is not
48
really looking
million
forward to 4 years,
contains.
but I can include that.
Yeah, because the 48 million contains part of that 6 million, does it not? Or where, see, again, I guess,
It
where
depends
does
on
that
what the state
go?
budget is at the time, what our enrollment is at the time, and what our LCI. There's a lot of fluctuation in that, but it has been traditionally, the differential is about 6 million that will go away from the state at that time.
Yeah.
Yes, ma'am.
Any further questions?
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Hagel.
Thank you.
Okay, item 4.01, strategic planning process. Dr. Bergen?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Strategic planning is a vital process for all organizations. This work allows us to define our future direction, determine the appropriate allocation of resources, and designate specific actions which will allow us to accomplish our long-term ambitions. As Bedford County Public Schools designs a new strategic framework over the course of this school year, we are inviting input from all of our stakeholders in a variety of formats regarding what our strategic priorities should be over the next 5 years. This process is being managed by a core planning team that includes members of our executive team and other key leaders of our central support team. So during tonight's presentation, I'll be joined by 2 of those core planning team members, Dr. Leanne Calvert, our Executive Director for Human Resources and Talent Development, and Dr. Karen Woodford, our Chief Learning Officer. As a first step in this process, we've already received input in a variety of formats regarding the vision, mission, and core values for the school division. This evening, Dr. Calvert will be providing a summary of the data that we've collected on the development of a vision statement. She'll be followed by Dr. Woodford, who will summarize the data collected regarding the development of a mission statement. And then I'll conclude this presentation with a review of our core values and a summary of the next steps in the process. Dr. Calvert.
When determining whether we, BCPS, would continue with the current established vision statement or move forward with a newly crafted vision, we considered multiple data points and garnered input from a variety of sources. When pausing just a moment to consider what a vision statement is supposed to capture, it's important to note that a vision statement should vividly paint a picture of the future and where the school system would like to be. Stakeholder input was gathered in 3 distinct ways. First, we distributed a survey to all stakeholders in mid-November, which remained open for a 2-week period. A total of 972 participants provided input on a sampling of vision statements, were provided within the survey. Secondly, the Superintendent's Advisory met on December 6th. And this group is made up of a wide variety of stakeholders, including students and parents from all 3 zones, as well as teachers, paraprofessionals, and classified staff from across the division. This group not only considered the data from the survey, but also provided additional feedback as they identified what words would resonate with them, discussed if there was anything missing in the sample vision statements, and identified any areas that they disagreed with. Lastly, all of our principals reviewed vision statements at their December 14th principals meeting and worked to collaboratively groups to thoroughly review the provided statements and determine which vision statements they believe best captured where they wanted Bedford County Public Schools to be in 5 years. Projected on the screen, you can see the top 3 vision statements that emerge from those 3 data points in rank order. The second vision statement listed is what we have historically used, empowering learners for future success. The other 2 statements were sample visions provided within the survey and for our Superintendent's Advisory Group and building principals to consider. As the raw data and input provided during small group discussion was triangulated and synthesized, building citizens, promoting success resonated with most of our stakeholders. They liked the use of BCPS acronym and the action that the term building suggested.
When determining whether BCPS should continue with the currently established mission statement or move forward with a newly crafted mission, we once again considered multiple data points and garnered input from a variety of sources. When determining whether BCPS should continue with the currently established mission statement or move forward with a newly crafted mission, we once again used multiple data points and decided that we would talk to those stakeholders and think about what a mission statement really is. A mission statement is, for an organization, focuses on the present and is influenced by the vision statement that's chosen. The vision captured a picture of the future, and the mission is the roadmap that will help you obtain that vision. The mission and vision statements really should complement one another and work in tandem. The same stakeholder input was gathered for our mission statement that was gathered for our vision. First, we distributed a survey to all stakeholders. Then we met in Superintendent's Advisory, and finally we consulted with our principals. Projected on the screen, you can see the top 3 mission statements that emerge from those 3 data points in rank order. The second mission statement listed is what we have historically used. The other 2 statements were sample missions provided within the survey and for our Superintendent's Advisory Group and our building principals to consider. As all 3 data points were considered, the mission statement that emerged as the number 1 in rank order was Bedford County Public Schools will provide equitable opportunities to enable all students to think critically, collaborate, create, communicate, and become productive citizens. Moving forward, we are proposing tonight that the school board endorse these currently proposed vision and mission statements.
So then that leaves the core values, the last piece of data that was gathered during this initial collection, again from all 3 of those groups. It was the consensus of all 3 groups, the results of the community survey, the discussion with the Superintendent's Advisory Council, and with all of our principals. It was overwhelming that all 3 groups felt that we should continue to use the core values as they are currently stated. These core values put a central focus on students as we ensure that we act with integrity, we engage in meaningful collaboration with a variety of stakeholders, and we work to guarantee a safe and dynamic learning environment. And of course, we remain committed to helping our students achieve their own unique personal and academic goals. So given the feedback from our stakeholders, our recommendation would be that we continue to use these core values as written to define our work moving forward. Next steps. Later in this meeting, as part of the action agenda, I'll be asking the board to formally approve the proposed vision, mission, and core value statements as they've been presented this evening. The next step in the process then will be to garner input from all of our stakeholders through 23 planned focus group meetings. Some of them have already occurred. Many more of them are going to be occurring in the coming weeks. The purpose of these focus group meetings is to get feedback on the goals and strategies that would be a part of the new strategic framework. The feedback that we gather from the focus groups will then be shared with you at your next meeting on February 10th, and the board will be asked to take action on the goal statements. With the adoption of the goal statements, the next step in the process will be to create design teams. These design teams will be composed of school building staff, teachers and administrators, as well as central support leaders. There would be 1 design team per goal, and these design teams would meet throughout the months of March and April to generate proposed strategies, identify needed resources, and determine measurable outcomes. The work of the design teams will be shared with the Superintendent's Advisory for a 3rd loop of feedback. And after receiving that feedback from the superintendent's advisory, we would formally present the completed strategic framework to the school board at your May 12 school board meeting. We would have 1 month of public comment through an open town hall, and the board would be asked to adopt the strategic framework in your June meeting, so that as we entered into the summer, our principals, our parents, our students would know what the strategic direction was of the school board for next school year and the 5 years to come. So at this time, we would welcome your questions about the process that we have undertaken and any of the information that has been shared with you here tonight.
Dr. Mealy?
I just want to say I think the new vision statement is fantastic. I think that anytime you have a vision statement, having created these for different buildings I was in, both here and in other divisions, it has to be something that our community and our teachers can wrap their heads around and communicate. You know, if you can't say what it is, then it's just a bunch of words on paper. And this is really, I think, very effective building citizens and promoting success, and something that, you know, can easily be remembered. And thank you for the discussion about vision and mission, and the mission being the roadmap. That was kind of turned around. I would just ask, too, that we consider, as we move forward, I love the mission statement as well. It brings in all 5 C's from the for Virginia Department of Education, and certainly does support the vision statement, that we continue to look at the word student, because that is what's used in everything that we touch. The VDOE uses it, so I think to constantly hop back and forth between learner and student, we need to pick one and stick with that, just for clarity. But very, very good job. Thank you. This is, I think, a wonderful beginning to that new framework.
Anyone else?
Yeah, Madam Chair, I got it real quick. Can you help me understand in the mission statement, will provide equitable opportunities? I need details on that. What does that mean? Why not just opportunities?
So in my post-entry plan that I shared with the board a couple months ago, it's on our webpage, one of the things that I've heard consistently, Mr. Hill, the perception in the community is your zip code determines your availability to course offerings. So equitable means everyone having equitable opportunities to workforce development, advanced placement coursework, dual enrollment, access to our partnerships with Central Virginia Community College. So that is, in direct answer to your question, that's what is intended as equitable opportunities in terms of access to coursework. And our partnership with our friends in the county administration for having equitable access to internet connectivity, which is the homework gap. So, you know, we have a number of kids who they can learn very effectively with technology while in school, but when they go home, they're in a dead zone. So keeping a continued focus on making sure that we have equitable opportunity for connectivity for our community are 2 examples.
Okay. Mr. Lehman?
I don't know, I think you and I are speaking different languages here. I think equal opportunity is more appropriate than equitable. I see equitable more as a predetermined outcome versus the equality of opportunity to achieve an outcome. So I'm with Mr. Hill. I'm not a fan of that word.
Perfectly pliable on the word equal opportunities as opposed to equitable.
Madam Chair.
Yes, Ms. Harris.
I'd like to, Dr. Bourbon, first of all, thank you for the vision statement and the whole process that you and your team have gone through. I think we all know, those of us who have been in the county for a length of time, that each of our areas, our zones, the Stanton River Zone, the Liberty Zone, and the 4 Zone, for many, many years, there's been lots and lots of discussion about the equity and the fact that things were not quite equal. A certain program you couldn't find at Stanton River, but it would be found at Forest Elementary School. So I think your choosing of that word is very much appropriate as we work towards trying to make sure that all of our students in each of our zones are receiving the same programs and opportunities.
Any more comments? The only thing I would say is I echo Dr. Mealy in the fact of I would like to see it students throughout the documents and not learners. And I would also echo Mr. Leamy's comment about it being equal instead of equitable.
Sure, but again, I'm perfectly liable to the will of the board on this. One, in the reorganization of our central office team, there was one title that we just changed without any fanfare, a lot of attention to it. Learner Support Services, we changed to Student Support Services. So we can certainly keep in line with that, and we can substitute the word students where you see learners in the core values and in vision and mission statements, if that's the will of the board. And that's the feedback I'm hearing. Unless there's any objection, we'll go ahead and move forward in that way. Dr. Woodford? Fine? Yeah?
Yes, I can do that.
Okay.
Thank you.
Anything further?
Sorry, I want to make sure I understand. You're changing both of those, is that what you're saying?
Dr. Woodford, where would be a specific example, maybe in the core values?
It's the core values. The reason we didn't just go ahead and change learners is because it had been voted on by the board in a prior board. And we figured that was probably something you were going to want. So now if that's the board's consensus, when we get to the voting on the items, we can definitely do that. And I think from what I'm hearing, I guess when we get to the vote, you're asking that we change equitable to equal opportunities. So.
Yes.
Yeah, okay, thank you.
Yeah, and I'm just noticing, I'm laughing at myself. When we present this for action, we've already changed the focus on learners to focus on students.
Yeah, I noticed that.
So that's already captured. Our only change will be we'll use equal in lieu of equitable when we get to the action item.
And, Mr. Chairman, just one more thing, Dr. Bergen, I just think, I would like to see it move forward throughout everything. I mean, our title documents, our documents that go back and forth, because that's what's used in everything we touch as educators.
We'll make sure we're consistent.
Well, I wouldn't say it's used in everything.
It's used in everything. If you can point something out that's not, that comes from either the U.S. Department of Education or the Virginia Department of
Okay,
Education.
I'll take that challenge, Dr. Meany.
Okay, you can send it to me. That'd be great.
Okay, perfect.
Because
Okay,
everything I look
let's-
at.
You said everything.
Huh?
You said everything.
In the Department of
In
Education.
the Department of
You said
Education.
everything, so I'm
well,
taking
then
the
let me
challenge.
rephrase. I mean, everything that comes to us from the Department of Education, the U.S. Department of Education, evaluation forms, that sort of thing.
Higher
Can you find
education.
something out there from another author that says student? Yes, you can. That's not what I'm talking about. You
Okay,
misunderstood.
let's get back on course. So is there any other questions regarding this presentation? Okay, well, in light of the time of 6:34, I move that we move 4.02 to under number 8 to pick up later after the dinner break.
Second.
Yes.
Okay?
I think that we need to cut Ms. Sexton a break at some point, move her up.
Huh?
This is like an ongoing thing. Let's move her up in informational items so that she has an equal opportunity to go first.
So there's the example.
Going forward.
Okay, we're now on dinner break. Thank you, kind sir.
We may be the next
Oh, you're
one.
fine.
It's that big. Wow.
I'll get it later.
I'd like to reconvene the school board meeting for January the 13th, 2022. Please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Mr. Edwards, we have some recognition of students.
Madam Chair, we have, couldn't have done it without the students, and tonight we have the staff present to be recognized for their honor as well. And would you and Dr. Bergen please come forward? The National Association of Elementary and Secondary Education Act State Program Administrators recently designated Big Island Elementary School as one of only 2 national ESEA distinguished schools in the entire state of Virginia. Big Island was selected for exceptional student performance and academic growth over 2 consecutive years. The school will be recognized during this year's National ESEA Conference in February in New Orleans, and tonight, Big Island Elementary administrators and instructional staff members are on hand to be recognized for this amazing achievement. Staff members, when I call your name, will you please come forward? Kindergarten teacher Haley Lawson. First grade teacher Olivia Utong. In the second grade classroom, Martha Nowlin. Also heading up second grade, Kristen Honeycutt. On hand to represent fourth grade tonight, Ellen Angus. And showing up for the fifth grade, Angela Arrington. A pair of reading specialists had their hand in this award too. Melissa Gaylor. And Terry Galbraith. Special education teacher Leslie Pfeiffer. Art and music, Leslie Pfeiffer. Leslie also does special education.
Nope. Cameron does art music.
Yeah, I got you. And Pam Riggles with art and music. A pair of instructional aides, Rebecca Powell. And Tina Milton. And finally, the principal at Big Island Elementary, Andy Bliss. Once again, ladies and gentlemen, the staff for the nationally distinguished ESEA Big Island Bulldogs. Now, if we could, we'd like to do a photo op. We've got approximately 15 of you up here, so if we could do tallest in the back, 7 or 8, and shortest in the front.
Now we get to move on to item 6.03, public comment. The public comment portion of tonight's agenda is limited to 25 minutes. Individual speakers are limited to 3 minutes, while anyone representing an organized group will be allowed 5 minutes, provided they are the sole speaker from that group or organization. Speakers are asked to state their name, address, voting district, and organization or group if applicable. The school board is here to listen to your comments, but will not engage or respond to speakers during this 25-minute period. Please remember that this is a public meeting and that we expect all speakers to refrain from any foul, abusive, or hateful language. Mr. Edwards will serve as timekeeper for individual speakers with a ringing bell indicating that a person has 30 seconds remaining, and a second bell will ring indicating a person's 3 minutes have expired. Mr. Edwards will also serve as timekeeper for a cumulative 25-minute period. When Mr. Edwards' 3-minute timer bell rings, please discontinue speaking and allow the next person in line to come to the podium. Should you be unable to finish your comments, please sit or give them to Ms. Johnston, and she will give them to board members. Please do not adjust the microphone at the podium. It has been positioned for premium audio quality. Mr. Edwards.
Madam Chair, the individuals scheduled for tonight include Mary Bennett on behalf of Bedford County Patriots, Christian Sneed, David Beauregard on behalf of the Root of David, Julie Wyatt, Trevor Cooper, Rachel Cooper, and Veronica Schakowsky.
Ms. Bennett.
Hi everyone, how are y'all tonight?
Well, thank you.
My name is Mary Catherine, and I am a very proud and very busy mama of 6 children, 5 of them boys. Many people say, my gosh, your hands are full, and I'll say, yes, but so is my heart. I am very excited to be here, and I've got just a few things to say, so excuse me if I'm all over the board. It's the mom in me. Okay, first off, I'm excited to welcome the 2 new board members. I'm sure many of y'all know this, but these are dads that have stepped up in the community because they recognized that maybe the past board was not really listening to the Bedford County community and the parents. I have seen the community rally amazingly, hours of volunteer time going in, and I'm sure y'all know what happened. There was a David and Goliath moment, and these 2 men are on the board, and we are so grateful. So thank you very much. I'm excited that you're joining these amazing board members as well. So, one of the things that I want to state is in the Virginia Code. I'm sure it's been said before, but that is the right of a parent. And it says a parent has a fundamental right to make decisions concerning the upbringing, the education, and care of that parent's child. Now, again, I have 6 children, and I understand that each of them have different needs, and they have, so I have same expectations, but I understand it takes different ways to get them to where they need to be. One of the things that Dr. Bergen did was set up the focus groups, and they've mentioned that before, and I had the opportunities today earlier to join one of the Zoom meetings, and it was very eye-opening for me, and I'm glad I was able to participate in it. One of the things that was said was they do not, a person on the call said, I do not want too much parental involvement. I want an educator educating my child. And I'm going to agree with that. I do want educators educating my children, but I want them educating in reading and in writing and arithmetic. I do not want educators talking to them about social issues. I do not want educators talking to them about emotional issues because, in my opinion, that's where the parent's responsibility is. So I will agree that I am very grateful for these educators, and I know that they have done such wonderful jobs. So I want to just reiterate that that's really important to me, that as a parent, I believe I should have the choices on what they read if I believe it's something that's too mature for them. In fact, I know lots of people that have been reading books, and again, this is just the books, but if we could do an opt-in program for books instead of an opt-out, that is something that I think is really important. Another thing I want to talk about is the masks and the COVID mitigations. I can give you all of the details regarding the CDCs and how cloth masks no longer work, and that, well, they do, but not as much because obviously COVID still happens, it's everywhere. And you need N95 masks, or they've gone from 14-day quarantine, now it's a 5-day quarantine. I know people whose entire classes are completely shut. So if we could work on COVID mitigations, quarantine practices, as well as when Youngkin says, and I know he said it because he's ran on this, was the mask will be overturned. When that happens, I would love it if the school board could say, okay, if Youngkin has done the mask mandate, make it parental choice, because I understand that parents out there are concerned and they have, they want their children wearing masks, and I respect that. I don't want mine wearing masks. So I just want mutual respect within our community, so we can work together to make sure that every parent's needs and every child's needs are being met. The second thing is, look at this crowd. This is pretty awesome. So thank you for having a larger venue. One of the things I'd like to ask is, I know we have high school auditoriums out there, and maybe we can work, and hopefully we'll continue to have more community involvement. I think it's important. We can't just be sitting on the sidelines complaining about things. We need to be involved. We need to take a part in our community. So I'd love to have maybe a larger auditorium. Hopefully we'll continue to grow into the space. The other thing that I would like to talk about is perhaps if we could, y'all could model your meetings based on the Board of Supervisors. They do public comments first, and then they have private comments afterwards. And they also have more opportunities for the public comments. So again, I don't have lots to say that hasn't been said before, but I want to come up here and say thank you. I look forward to a wonderful year. Thank you to the teachers and the educators. And again, we're all want the same thing, and that is the best for each of our children. I know everyone has different ideas of doing it, but just remember that we're all on the same side and we all want to work together. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Ms. Knight. Christian Sneed.
Yeah, okay, great, thanks. My name is Christian Sneed, 113 Snooty Fox in Good, Virginia, District 7. We have a saying in our home that facts are our friends. In the last school board meeting, I was confused on how a previous request to review the explicit content of books, not subject material, was misconstrued. The request was surrounding repeated vile language, sexual content, and not slavery. The request had nothing to do with slavery, and if you watched the 5-hour December meeting, you'd not be left with that impression. Sometimes facts are conveniently left out of conversations, which is what I'm passing out now. This was the case when Dr. Trosper unfortunately left out that there were 8 books as alternative suggestions, all to do with slavery. And they all demonstrate the horrors and struggles of slavery. Unfortunately, without this information, Ms. Harrison spoke at the 3-hour and 35-minute mark and was left with the impression that the request in some way deprived our children of the opportunity, and these are your words, and the opportunity to learn our history. It's American history and it should be taught. And it's an injustice when you don't want to learn and understand. And I agree, slavery was never in question, nor the horrors of slavery. But the inaccurate acknowledgement for the alternatives not being mentioned or provided would have cleared up this misconception from the start, which is why I passed out those things. Ms. Harrison, our household couldn't agree more that slavery was dreadfully awful and one of the worst things in our country's past. But teaching it from mixing facts and fiction inside of a book is very dangerous. It jeopardizes making a real impact. The watered-down accounts are less soluble because most readers don't know what aspects are real and what aren't, so they go into their own assumptions. I'd also agree with Mr. Jason Johnson, who's not here tonight, that at the 3-hour and 50-minute mark of the last meeting, slavery is something that happened in our county, maybe even in close proximity to where we're sitting. If we want our kids to accurately understand history, we must teach it, not a sanitized version, a real depiction. And that's what we're asking for. Speaking of proximity, 2 of the suggestions on that book, number 1 and number 2, were both from individuals that were born into slavery. You'll know him as Frederick Douglass, who lived in D.C. and Maryland, and Booker T. Washington, go to Franklin County. Ms. Mealy, you mentioned, where do we draw the line in censoring books? It's a slippery slope, and I would agree with you. That's a hard subject. But it's just as slippery to allow any material into the school without being challenged or have airs of concerns. I'm glad that our kids do enjoy reading books, as you guys reported out in the classroom. However, they also enjoy adult movies, enjoy adult internet content, and social media apps. And this is why we as the adults are the leaders of the school system in our households. And they also, 30 seconds, got it, thank you, yep. We also must agree that they're 18 years old to engage on this or a phone contract. There's a code of conduct in Bedford County school systems that says what's acceptable to coming in and out of the mouths of our kids. This is no different than what goes into their mind. So we have a saying in my home that says garbage in, garbage out. So we watch what we consume. Booker T. Washington said excellence is doing a common thing in an uncommon way, and Frederick Douglass said character, not circumstances, make a man. So I take that approach when we start having our books to be reviewed on different topics. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Smith. David Beauregard.
I too want to say thank you to our 2 new members. Glad that you're here and hope things can proceed in a people's manner. I'm going to continue with my mantra of constitutional law and direct again that the people are the source of power. And this gavel courtroom type setup is not the type of setup that was in the days of the Continental setting up of the Constitution, of meetings. They were people met in school boards, in schoolhouses, and taverns. But the main thing is that it wasn't this way. Everybody was on the same level. The representatives that the people chose sat on the same level, and there was dialogue. This 25-minute no comment, or people's comment time is not, it hasn't been approved by the people. We want dialogue. We want to ask questions, and we want to hear you answer. That's what you're accountable to. The Constitution, the Virginia Constitution, which all of you swore to, says that you will be amenable at all times. So the Code of Virginias that you actually use to dismiss yourself for a closed meeting is unconstitutional, according to the Virginia Constitution. I've said this time and again, but you continue to follow laws that are opposed to the Virginia Constitution and your oath to be amenable at all times. Fine, if you're going to still have closed meetings, then you provide a transcript so that we can see what you talked about, because you're accountable to us. Everything that you say and do, you are public servants. That also is written in Article 1, Section 2. You are trustees and servants. But we want a dialogue. We don't want to treat you like a servant. We don't want you to just listen to us. We want you to follow what our directives are for our children, for our school board, and for our county. That's our right. It's written, black and white. And so I'm going to continue on this path. I'll just set forth an agenda of what I think most of the people want. There'll probably be at least one or two that agree. But we want to get back to the open dialogue. Get rid of these microphones and let's sit down and talk back and forth. Cut these meetings down. There's so much fluff and so much things that are in here that waste our time, especially when we don't get to lead you or tell you what we actually would like or desire for you to do. Directives is what the people are supposed to be given to you. This voting system isn't constitutional either. It overrules the people. If one of you goes to your district and your district says, yes, we want masks, then that's what you vote, or that's what you go to. But if you go to a meeting and sit in this, and then you agree not to have masks, one way or the other, that's not what your district told you to do. You don't have that right to change the people's voice. Get back to obeying the law, the Commonwealth, and the Constitution. Open dialogue meetings. Get rid of the closed meetings or provide full transcripts available immediately without censorship. Also, as far as the school board, we could save a lot of money if we start looking into alternative energy sources. Electromagnetics, hydroelectric, solar, battery, windmill. Now, windmill might sound archaic, but you know what? It saves a lot of money, and we could reduce a lot of cost in energy if we look to alternative energy sources. And we could also reduce the taxpayer ante-up. Post the agenda. We get the agenda on Monday. We have no time to investigate things. Post the agenda at least a week in advance. And I actually would like more. But also, don't vote on the agenda the night of the agenda, the night of your presentation. Give us time to look and read and determine what we would like to recommend for our board to do, instead of passing a vote on that night. The vision of the school should include the parents, not just 972 people. And could you please define for me what a stakeholder is? See, you can't even answer that, but by law and the oath that you sign, right now, any of us standing here, we shouldn't have to grovel before you or ask you to do something. If I ask you a question, by the Constitution and the oath that you have taken, you are required to answer. This is the truth. This is what's written. You know it. We all know it.
Thank you, Ms. Beauregard.
Okay, see you next month. Thank you.
See you. Julie Wyatt.
Julie Wyatt. I live in District 6. I'm here to address the request to have a selection of books removed from our school libraries. I've reported these challenges to the American Library Association's Office of Intellectual Freedom, Virginia Library Association, and the Virginia Association of School Librarians. The Virginia ACLU was also aware of book challenges throughout the state. I'm pleased to see that so far the school system is following policy and reviewing the requests for removal. The stated reason for these bans is inappropriate content, but based on the chosen titles, it seems like a political play to quash imagined threats like CRT and the gay agenda, and to prevent marginalized groups from telling stories about their life experiences rather than a good faith effort to protect children. The Board of Education versus PICO decision stated that there is no right of school boards to ban books because they don't agree with the ideas in them. There is the right to take community standards into account, but the loudest community members aren't the whole community. Often the members of the community that are directly impacted by these attacks are intimidated and don't feel safe speaking up. Parents do have the right to be involved in their children's education. They can do this in so many constructive ways, talking to their children about what they've learned, asking for extra assistance when appropriate, joining the PTA. Teachers are there to guide children in their parents' absence. Instead of assuming the worst of teachers, work with them and acknowledge their professionalism and dedication. In fact, the library already offers parental involvement. You can tell your children what you don't want them to read. If they disobey you, that's not the fault of the book or the librarian or the school. But it's also important to trust our children. My own children have stopped reading books they weren't enjoying or weren't comfortable with without trying to prevent other kids from being able to make their own decisions. And that's the real point. You don't have a right to step on other parents' rights. I'm teaching my children that all people have human rights. I'm teaching my children that all people can write books. They don't have to look and act exactly like us for their words to ring true or to be of value. Libraries are a community service, and that parents don't have the right to take away access to materials for my kids or others in the community. Students have a right to a variety of stories about themselves, their friends, people they will meet someday, stories that challenge them and make them think. They have a right to a world where all voices are valued.
Thank you, Ms. Rod. Trevor Cooper.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Trevor Cooper, and I'm for the mask. They gotta go. And I don't know who gives y'all the right to tell our children what they can or cannot wear on their face. Equal opportunity. If my son wants to wear a mask, cool. If he doesn't, he shouldn't be forced to. And I want an answer tonight. What are you gonna do about telling my child that he has to wear a mask? I want an answer. If it's constitutional, you need to answer, because man to man, that's just a respectful thing to do. But you want to sit up there on a podium like this, like you're above everybody, do something about it. Trust me, you won't like it. Y'all have a good evening. I lose my temper fast. Stupidity again.
Rachel Cooper.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Congratulations, Mr. Nelms and Mr. Holbrook, on your first night at your board meeting. I will say the masks have to go. Y'all have trampled over our parent rights on choosing what we feel is right for our children. There are parents out there who feel their child should wear a mask. There are parents out there who feel their children should not. My son has a medical document saying he cannot wear a mask, but yet is forced to wear a mask. That is very unfair. That is actually illegal to trample over a medical stated document. You do not have a doctorate degree in medical science or anything medical. You are a doctor of education. I have tried to come and speak to you on multiple occasions, Mr. Superintendent, but you have failed us as parents on failure to speak to us. I have known many parents have been to you since the beginning of the school year, even before the school year started, and you have refused to speak to us. You have sent multiple of your other staff members to speak to us, and it was not in private either. You put us on a display as we were some model on TV. That is very disrespectful on your behalf. I have noticed you also been to several different school districts. I wonder why. Maybe because you trampled over their parents' rights as well. Not fair. I am a parent, and I will choose what is best for my child. Another thing we need to address is our school bus drivers. It's very unfair for parents to have to drive their children to and from school because you cannot provide transportation. A lot of reasons you can't provide transportation was because some of our school bus drivers' health care and pay was cut. And I feel you as a superintendent should take the first pay cut. Quit taking stuff out of our schools to raise your pay or his pay or her pay or anyone else's pay on the school board or in the school board office. Our teachers and our school bus drivers deserve the utmost respect. I myself, who work in the public, each and every day, I see more, and I have talked to several teachers and other people who work for the school district itself, and they feel the same way I do. They feel our parents have every right to stand up against y'all as a school board, and they also feel like they should have more benefits given back to them, not taken from them. Y'all have caught several programs from our children, but you are not creating an equal right of opportunity of learning. Our children need more equal rights of opportunity, as does our school bus drivers. Our school bus drivers are not getting the equal rights of opportunity within the school district. I do believe each one of them deserves a pay raise and their benefits given back to them. At this point, that will help give us more school bus drivers, instead of them stepping down because they're not able to pay the next bill because of their pay getting cut.
Thank you, Ms. Cooper. Veronica Schakowsky.
Hi, my name is Veronica Schakowsky. I reside in Forest, Virginia, and I live in District 4. I would like to address 2 items tonight. First, to the new members of the school board, Matt and Dwayne, I would like to give a warm congratulations and welcome. I'm excited for this next chapter of the Bedford County School Board. I want to encourage you and challenge you to never forget the reason you decided to step up and run for school board. You saw a crisis unfolding before us and our God-given rights and liberties under attack. There will no doubt be difficult decisions ahead, but just remember that I and more than likely many others will be praying for you to make the right decisions that best protect our individual liberties. And remember that you are parents before you are elected officials. My second point of concern tonight is in regard to the issue of the current challenging of certain books in our school libraries. At the December meeting, it was very disheartening that certain school board members injected distracting emotion into the conversation to deflect from the issue of concern, which was that of the amount and level of graphic sexual content in certain reading materials. And they tried to turn the conversation into one about whether we are going to teach about slavery in our schools. Those of us parents and citizens who are concerned are not trying to ban books or ban teaching of the evil of slavery, but we are rather wanting to protect our children from harmful sexual content, as we know and studies prove that overexposure to graphic sexual content is harmful to young minds, and also the over-sexualization of a society is one of the tenets of ideological communists to help implement communist ideals on that society. So I will finish with saying that we will not let you define us. We will not let you say that we are against teaching slavery or in favor of banning books. And I respectfully ask that any topics of discussion going forward stay on course and don't get sabotaged by irrelevant matters to distract from the topic being discussed. Thank you.
Thank you. This ends the public comment time for tonight's meeting. Do I have a motion to approve the consent agenda?
Madam Chairman, I make a motion that we approve the consent agenda as presented.
I have a motion from Dr. Mealy. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second by Mr. Nelms. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Consent agenda is approved. Okay, go back to Ms. Sexton, policy updates.
Just so you know, you're lucky that I was so busy that I didn't get that many done for this meeting.
I noticed.
Listen to me as much as before.
Good.
Okay, so this evening we are presenting 5 policies for information. These policies will be brought back to the board for action at the February board meeting. 3 policies have minor legal and technical changes. These may be viewed within board docs. The remaining policies have more substantial changes, and we will review those now. I will pause momentarily after each of these policies in case there are questions about the suggested revisions. GCDA, effect of criminal conviction or founded complaint of child abuse or neglect. Removal of language in Section 1A of the policy regarding the ability to hire individuals convicted of a felony to follow Virginia Code Section 22.1-296.1. Replacement of language previously added by BCPS staff regarding the cost of conducting criminal history record checks to applicants and school boards based on previous VSBA updates that were not adopted by BCPS in the past. Addition of Section B, founded complaints of child abuse and neglect as recommended by VSBA. Removal of language in Section 2B of the policy stating that Bedford County School Board and/or any employee, contractor, or agent of a local school board will not assist an employee, contractor, or agent of such school board in finding a new job that is believed to be engaged in sexual misconduct regarding a minor or student in violation of the law, because this is not included in the VSBA recommendations and may have been previously added by BCPS staff or not removed during past VSB updates. KL, minor wording changes and the addition of a second paragraph regarding the ability of a parent, custodian, or legal guardian to petition the local circuit court if aggrieved by an action of the school board as recommended by VSBA. Does anybody have any questions? Okay.
Thank you, Ms. Sexton. Move on to item 9.01, organizational items. I can get down there. Do we need to take individual motions on these, or just all of one?
The ones that are listed, the ones that are numbered, you can certainly, let me get to it so I can see it. You can certainly do encompass all, approve those organizational items. The ones that are bulleted, some may require discussion. But for the ones listed 1 through 5, they can be done as a whole.
Okay. So do I have a motion to approve items 1 through 5?
So moved.
I have a motion by Mr. Leamy. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second by Ms. Harrison. All those in favor,
Do we
signify
have
by
any
saying-
discussion?
Oh, I'm sorry. Is there any discussion?
Yes, I have a question. For Dr. Dewis, the fuel bids, have we ironed out the issues we've had with prior delivery of fuels?
This is for the appointment of designees for the committees. There's no,
Oh, it's not,
there's nothing in
okay,
there
I'm
about
sorry.
fuel bids. This is for the appointment of superintendent's designee, agent of the board, clerk of the board, deputy clerk, and meeting calendar.
Oh, okay, sorry.
Do you still want to ask your question?
No, I have a
or what?
question. I have a
Okay.
question for Dr. Dewis. Thank you.
Okay, so I have a motion on the floor and a second. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, the appointees have passed. Standing committees for the additional organizational items. We've talked about 3 standing committees, which were finance, legislative, and
Facilities.
facilities. First of all, I reckon, is this something that we would want to do?
Yes?
Have the
Yes.
committees? Yes. Okay, second, I'm gonna be nice, and does anyone volunteer for any of these before you're appointed? Yes, ma'am.
I volunteer for the Finance Committee.
Okay,
I'm open to either and/or legislative and facilities.
I think you'd be perfect in facilities.
Okay.
Anyone
I think
else
we
want
got
to
somebody
volunteer?
else that would probably be appropriate.
Yeah, I know someone else that would be too. Yeah.
Yeah, I'll do facilities.
Really? Okay, so we have 2 there. We have 1 finance volunteer. Do we have another one, Mr. Nelms?
Sure.
Okay, great. This is running very smoothly. And for the legislative, Ms. Harrison, do you know anyone that would volunteer?
I really do not.
I'll do it, Susan, I'll do the legislative.
Okay,
No.
you'll do it?
Yeah.
Mr. Hill, will you do legislative?
Sure.
Cool, thank you so much. Is that, we needed 2 on each, correct?
Yes.
That's recommended, yes.
Okay. Now, with,
Wait a minute.
huh?
So I'm confused, 2 on each.
2 on each committee, finance,
Who's the 2
legislative.
on finance?
Ms.
Me.
Dr. Mealy and Dwayne.
Okay, and then 2 on, I'm just trying to understand.
Facility.
Facilities, Mr. Holbrook, Mr. Leamy. And you.
Is Lemmy gonna do 2?
Yeah, he's gonna do 2.
You
I
are
can
the
handle
man.
it, dude.
All right.
He's-
He is the man.
Energizer Bunny,
Sweet. Thank you.
without the pink suit.
All right.
Is that clear? Are we clear?
I'm good. Yep.
Okay. Dr. Hicks and Mr. Johnson were our representatives for the Central Virginia Governor's School and Roanoke Valley Governor's School as liaisons that would report back to the board. Now that they're no longer here, we have a void for those until the new school year, correct? Run through the summer into the new school year. Do we have any volunteers?
I'll
that would
do
be-
the Roanoke Valley Governor's School.
Thank you, Dr. Mealy. Do we have one for Lynchburg and Central Virginia Governor's School?
I'll do that one.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Hill. Man, y'all are easy. I appreciate this. Okay, we, wondering what we want to do for the meetings in the month of February, March, and April. I know that, and I'm not sure how the feed's coming through tonight, of course, because I'm not watching it, I'm part of it. But I've heard the feed and the audio were pretty bad here. Do we want to continue to stay here, or would we want to use Susie Gibson temporarily, or another facility temporarily, and then possibly go to the different high schools during the summer months when the kids aren't there? So it'd make it easier to go in and set everything up.
Well, I mean, going forward, I think we need to work towards now getting the high schools set up to host a meeting such as this.
Okay.
We need to be moving forward with that now, not when we run out of 6 months here. Oh, by the way, what's next? So I think that's something we need to take through. We need to
So start working on that, getting it
Yes.
ready to go.
Correct.
Okay, I'm on that. But what do you want to do for February?
Madam Chairman? Can I just-
Yes, sir.
Is that okay?
Yes, ma'am.
Are we able, would the county be able, Dr. Bergen, to prepare Susie G. Gibson? And I understand there's facility issues with access, and is there anything we can do? I mean, you have, like, for example, the technology available to put up there.
Yeah, we can host a meeting wherever the board would like to have it. If I can just address the audio issues in this room. There was some equipment we didn't have access to last month, and we apologize for the terrible audio. It's been corrected, I understand. So the audio feed should be just as clear as a bell for folks tonight as it would have been in any previous meeting. Susie G., we can meet at Gibson anytime you want. We don't have to make any improvements to the building. If we start to make improvements to the building, by code, we would have to bring it up to code for ADA. So as long as we don't invest dollars in the auditorium, you can hold a meeting in there tomorrow. There is some concern that we might have with accessibility, but we can remediate that by having people come in on the side entrance. The greatest concern is there isn't access for handicapped individuals to a restroom inside the building. There is if they go outside the building and up the sidewalk. So I see no reason why you couldn't meet at Susie G. Gibson if that's the will of the board.
Is it, Ms. Harrison?
I was just listening, of course, to Dr. Bergen state that the audio here has been looked into and has been hopefully corrected and it's better. Then I would suggest that we continue to meet here in February.
I would agree.
Okay. Same.
To meet where?
Here in February.
Yeah, fine with me.
Do we want to go ahead and figure out March or just take March and February? Figure out if we're going to stay here until,
I think, sorry.
or is it implied we're going to go till school's out and then
I
circle
like
to that?
Mr. Leamy's recommendation of, we need our 3 auditoriums ready.
Okay.
So that action needs to take place and get started now. And then, as soon as that becomes available, then we can shift to a different location.
Okay, so we'll plan on meeting back here in February, get an update on the sound system from the auditoriums to see what we can do in March.
Yep. And I
Does that sound?
I received confirmation as well that tonight's feed and sound are great.
Okay, I just got a text too.
Okay.
Okay. So, but we'll address it on a month-to-month basis, is that what we want to do?
Yeah, that works for me.
Mr. Nelms?
And also, when we do the school auditoriums, can we do an alternative, like a rotation?
That's what we're
like
planning on doing.
Okay.
Going to each district.
Yeah, that's, I mean, right now, it's kind of difficult on our IT guys,
Right.
IT folks, because they're, having to scramble around.
Right.
The objective being, let's get the capabilities permanently installed in the high school auditorium so that we can do that rotation of meetings among the different high schools.
Madam Chairman?
Yes, ma'am.
I don't necessarily disagree with that. What my concern is that we do have high schools that use their auditoriums as classrooms and in the evening, getting toward the time we would meet. And I guess I would want to know too, is our IT team, is just getting the equipment in place the only thing, or are we going to be pulling them away from the schools and the students again to set up?
Well, if it's established in the building permanently, there would be minimal setup required.
Well, that's what I'm asking. I would assume that, but I'd like to hear from Mr. Sexton or somebody with Dr. Hoisington regarding, I don't want to pull them away from their jobs to do that.
Don't be shy, folks.
And you don't have to answer that now. You could get with us next month. Why don't we do that? Let them do some assessment and see what's feasible to do.
Go ahead and have that part of the auditorium update that we'll get
Yeah.
for next month. Try to figure out moving.
I will just say that a year ago when we investigated this, we purchased a traveling sound system that can be set up fairly easily.
Okay, but that's portable. Let's set something up permanently in each of these auditoriums that the schools can use when we're not using them.
And do we have the funding for that? Because I'm wondering, what is that going to entail at the various high schools? I'm sure that, again, I go to the, sometimes the differences at each of the high schools. Would we be able to meet the needs at each of the high schools using this?
Funding would be a Mr. Hagler question.
Mr. Hagler, where are you? There you are.
From my earlier projection, we are projected to have an ending balance of about 1.2, so spending some money, I don't think this would cost that much. So I think if there's additional money to spend to get whatever cameras or sound equipment installed, it would probably be there.
And Dr. Dewis,
I want to see estimates on that.
Absolutely.
Well, and Dr. Dewis, I can't recall right now off the top of my head from the auditorium study, was there a breakdown of sound system only?
We did get some information from the architects regarding specific sound systems. I don't have that information right in front of me, but certainly.
Would you get it to us, please?
Absolutely, and so for the next discussion, we can determine that. I think any equipment we set up will all partly need to be mobile. because those stages are used for dramatic productions and other class instruction. Speakers, all of those sorts of things will can be mounted and more permanent if they're not already in place. So those are all the things that we will look at.
Okay, well, if you could get us several options, we'd appreciate it.
Yeah, I want to make sure we take advantage to use this as an opportunity to provide our theater, students, sound equipment, speakers, video. I mean, let's spend money wisely, and we're going to use it for us, but also give them state-of-the-art technology to offer their programs, not only to in-house, but to televise it. Why not? If we're going to spend the money on the equipment, we at least need to know what that option is to be able to help our programs.
Yeah, and that's the objective. We use it one night a month. They can use it, the rest of the month. I mean, it's just a no-brainer to me. It truly is.
Any more comments? Okay. So right now, we're going to look for an update next month to see what we can do as far as sound and traveling. Next month, we're going to meet here. Then we'll decide in February what we're going to do for March. Is that correct?
We'll be prepared, Madam Chair.
Right now, the practice is for the agendas every month, that I get the agenda on Wednesday. The chair and the vice chair get the agenda on Wednesday. We have, of course, that's one day notice. Then we have a phone conference with Ms. Johnson and Dr. Bergen to discuss what's going to be on the agenda and what order and how it's going to be there. Dr. Bergen actually suggested that instead of just the chair and the vice chair looking at it, make the agenda let y'all see a draft agenda prior to give you time to get back in touch with us. Right now, Mr. Hill and I would be the committee. And then get in touch with us with any concerns that you might have for the agenda, but gives you time ahead of time to have input before, so we don't have to make changes once it goes live. Is that
Thank
something
you.
y'all would be interested in?
I would appreciate that.
Great.
Is that something good? Okay. So that will be our practice. And then Ms. Johnson, just to get us into the habit of it, because it's tough to teach new tricks sometimes. If you just send us a reminder email to let us know.
I will,
We sure
you want
appreciate
to do an email like I normally do on Friday when the agenda goes live, the Wednesday that it's shared prior to, do you want
Actually,
to?
if you can make it to give everybody else time to call us
Mhm.
before we meet with Dr. Bergen, would it be too much to ask to have it ready on Monday or Tuesday?
The deadline for staff to get items to me is not until that Tuesday. So I could do it at the end of the day Tuesday, as long as there's some understanding that the items will all be there, but maybe not necessarily all of the blurbs, documentation, info that goes along with it. But
And then that's fine, if we just
Okay.
have, if we can have a rough outline, I think we'd be fine with a rough outline and then understand that the reports will be coming.
Absolutely. Do that.
Okay? Thank you.
Yep.
And this didn't make it on here, something that, actually Ms. Johnson and I had discussed. We talked about, the extension of public comment time. Instead of 25 minutes, take it to 40 minutes. But instead of 3 minutes for an individual speaker and 5 minutes for a group, 4 minutes across the board. That way it's easily divisible by the 40 to allow for 10 speakers. Is that something that y'all would want to implement?
Yeah, I've never understood the arithmetic behind that. It's be like do math or something, with the 25, was it 8 people in 25 minutes?
Who knows how many of you gotta do the math? I mean, we're cutting out a minute or two. So if we make it
I'm okay
divisible.
with simplifying it in that manner, yes.
Okay. Is this something we need to vote on, or can we do this by consent?
It is a policy, I think the details is actually a reg. Ms. Anderson, maybe you could offer some assistance answering that. The details that talk about the 25-minute time limit And the individual time limit is a reg, it's not a policy. I know regs don't require board approval, whereas policies do.
If you could just if you make a motion, then that'll authorize changing the reg to match whatever it is you approve.
Okay, so do I have a motion then to change public comment time to 40 minutes with 4 minutes for individual and group? There will be no differentiation between the two?
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Second. Melissa's.
We have that policy coming up. Dr. Bergen is going to talk to you all about that soon. It's actually in the policy and the reg. So that would have to be gone through the process, I would think, of the policy.
So, guide me.
We'll do our, Ms. Anderson, if there's a motion that this is the will of the board, so we'll check policy and reg to see if it's permissible without additional steps, and if it is, we'll bring it back to the board for some more full
Yeah,
action.
if it's in policy, then and your normal process is do a first reading and come bring it back, then I would follow that process.
Okay. Okay.
I mean,
So we're
you
gonna
could
see-
expedite it if you want, Madam Chair. I mean, you could waive the first reading and bring it back at the next meeting for approval, if the board votes to waive the first reading.
What do y'all want to do?
Can we suspend the rules and take it for action tonight?
If you make a motion to adopt the policy, I would include Ms. Sexton, if you can tell us the policy number.
Okay, I went back and looked at it because I wasn't positive. It actually in the policy does not state the time, it just says a reasonable period of time.
Okay.
So that is in the regular. So I'm sorry.
We're
to
good.
interrupt.
So we're good?
I'd make a motion as you already requested. And
That's
then-
your motion.
So moved.
Okay. I have a motion by Mr. Leamy, second by Mr. Hill. Any discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? Okay, it passes. Next month, our public comment time will be 40 minutes. Okay, item 9.02, ESBA Code of Conduct for school board members. It's already started going around the table. Is this accessible to the public on Board
It is,
Docs?
it's on board docs, yes.
Okay, you can access that on Board Docs, but we have an annual Code of Conduct that we agreed to, issued by Virginia State Board, the School Board Association. I will get this correct. I'll quit getting my legal terms and my school terms confused. Do I have a motion to approve?
So moved.
Motion by Ms. Harrison. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second by Dr. Mealy. Any discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? Okay, motion passes. We'll pass this down the line.
Madam Chair, I have a question.
Yes.
In 9.01, the school board meeting calendar,
Oh, we didn't hit that, did we?
yeah, I wanted to make, what's that?
It was part of number 5.
Okay, I didn't know if we had to review it, but just because it says attached, we're good.
Okay, so we're good?
Okay,
We're good on that?
because it was number 5, right?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Mr. Hagler, back on stage. Supplemental appropriations.
Alrighty. You got quite a few supplemental appropriations before you tonight. Just for explanation, whenever we do a supplemental appropriation, that requires the Board of Supervisors to approve it. It's Appropriation Act, so it goes to the governing body. Within our budget, the school board has the ability to move money around within each fund. But if we move money between funds, that would be an action that had to be approved by the Board of Supervisors. So I just wanted to pass that on to you. You have supplemental appropriations in front of you tonight that went along with my second quarter forecast. In addition to that, there is one reappropriation. This is the last one that was on there. That's 22-12. Our ending balance the last year was $3.1 million, $3,112,002.29. The request is to reappropriate that money, $2 million to the textbook fund for the adoption of the science and reading, and the remaining $1.1 million to go to the school maintenance reserve fund. This is typically what we've done. We've not usually taken it to textbook in the past. We usually put most of it just in the maintenance reserve. This year, we're kind of splitting that up. And so I wanted to draw attention to that one. That is a reappropriation that doesn't go into the operating. It's usually, the agreement with the Board of Supervisors, you use it on one-time type of expenditures. You don't put it into the operating and create a reoccurring expenditure that has to be supported each and every year in the operating budget. But to go over each of the supplementals, the first one was 22-3. This is CARES Act ESSER 2 money, and all except $150,000 going into the operating fund really for custodial services and cleaning supplies. The bulk of the rest of that money will be in next year's budget. So there's a lot of money there. I'm only budgeting $150 in this year because I didn't need the rest. A lot of that money is going to be used for HVAC, and we'll budget that into for the next year budget. So that's 22-3. Any questions on that one? ESSER 3, which was the biggest of the CARES Act funding that we received, over $12 million. Moving about $1.8 million into the existing operating fund to cover all those positions I talked about earlier in the budget and the projection. And the remaining of that money will be budgeted in future years. So some of it will go into the 23, some in the 24, some of it will be in operating, some of it will be in the maintenance reserve for HVAC projects. But we don't have to do a supplemental on the entire amount tonight. It's just really what do we need to get through this year, and then the rest will be budgeted out in future years. This was the last one that came through, and the governor allocated out to schools and really to deal with HVAC systems. These monies will go, and the 4 projects we did over the summer qualify for this. So this money would go to recoup the money that we had committed other funds to do, and we can apply this fund for that. So this is a supplemental appropriation for that last funding stream, and all these projects were done over the summer, and we'd apply this towards that and get reimbursed for that and bring that money in. All those projects were done, I believe, out of the state school maintenance reserve fund, not in the operating fund, so the money would flow in there after we get reimbursement. And that would be the entirety of this grant. 22-6. Title I, I think I spoke about Title I in the first quarter forecast. We had large carryover balances in Title I. You're only allowed to carry over 15%. And so we had to show a plan that we were going to spend down that money. And so really each of the Title I schools has additional positions in Title I this year to spend that balance down, but it's a one-time spend down. That was not put into the budget, so we had to do a supplemental, spend that money down to comply with the Title I regulation and get our ending balance down below that 15%.
Mr. Hagler, so
Yes.
I just want to make sure I understand, I think I do. So that money went to the Title I schools?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
Yep. And each principal, instructional department went and talked to the principals and asked how they wanted to use that. But we allocated it based upon the allocation methodology, percentage-wise within the grant, and then they were able to hire additional staff just for this year.
Thank you.
21st Century, we applied for a competitive grant, 21st Century for Liberty Middle School. We didn't know if we were going to be awarded that until after the budget was passed. We were awarded that budget. So we were awarded about $194,000. Because the award came out later in the year, we didn't get the program up and running right away. Got it up and running about September, October. So I estimate we'll spend about $86,000 of that grant this year, and then we'll budget the rest for the following year. So this is 21st Century grant, and very happy and pleased that we were awarded that for Liberty Middle School. 22-8. We had an incident at a high school with some flooding, and so we've spent the money fixing that. This is the reimbursement from our insurance company. So we're going to recognize that revenue coming in to pay and offset those costs for the flood damage that we had at Jefferson Forest. 22-9. This was in regards to the bus that I mentioned earlier, electric bus. We are waiting for delivery. We placed this order when we were awarded the grant, I think back in August. Delivery is expected in March. So hope it comes in this year, and so we can finish this transaction and move forward and hopefully have some electric buses for the board and for others to see how they work. And for next year, we are expecting 2 of them, and we expect those in March. And this would be to receive money from the DEQ under this grant, and then turn around and pay the vendor for the increased cost of the bus, and also the charging stations. So it's really all paid for. The additional cost above a diesel bus is all paid for, the charging station and the additional cost.
Charging stations will be located at each school and the
I think the intent is to set up the charging stations at the central bus garage and to run these buses within the Liberty Zone to see how they operate, how long, and for us to get a gauge of what we can do with them and how well they operate. There are other grants and stuff that we'll pursue in the future and push it out to other schools, but this is really kind of our first jump into electric buses.
Okay.
What's the range spec on an electric bus like
You know, they tell you what it is, but until you get it out there and see it, that's why we want to do it where it's in the short
I mean, is
distance.
it
and we're
like
not
18 holes, or is it, you know?
What's that? 110 miles.
Okay. I mean, I think we're rolling the dice if, to Mr. Hill's point, if we just have one charging station, I think we need to have additional charging stations if it's going to be, you know, running a loop.
Hooking up the buses to a charging stations, there's multiple ways to do that. There's pretty big plants that you can hook up 10 buses to, very costly to do those, but these will be single charging stations from what I know. And each bus will have a charging station. So we'll have 2 charging stations and 2 buses.
Is the long-term plan to eventually migrate away from dinosaur burning buses to electric buses, or what's?
As the technology gets there, I think some of our longer routes, it would be a push to have a bus do 2 runs or even 4 runs in a day and get by with the charge. But they're getting a lot more than they used to 5 years ago. So as technology gets better, but from what we're hearing from our vendor, people are migrating to the electric buses very quickly. So.
More to follow then.
Yeah, more to follow. We'll have to see how they're performing, and actually, this is us looking at them and evaluating what's the savings, what's the additional cost, and how do you go forward with it.
And what's the delta between a diesel bus and an electric bus?
If you look at the supplemental, is the differential is $247,000.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
Gotcha.
We're getting a diesel bus for about $100,000, and you're getting an electric bus for about $350,000.
You know, the people that we're comparing this to, do they live in like rural areas like we have, where we have a lot of hills and stuff like that, or is it all flat to where
I think it's
you get the
been-
maximum
yeah,
amount of that battery?
I think it's first started in bigger, more
Urban.
cities and things like that. It's pushing out to more rural, but I don't know of many doing, you know, some of our runs that we might have down in Huddleston. I don't
Right.
hear of anybody doing that yet. But as the technology gets here, we'll have to look into that. There is a differential. It's a large cost. For these two, the grant's paid for it. But long-term, is the fuel savings and the maintenance savings going to help pay for the differential? There's a lot of looking into that has to be done.
Well, there's increased power consumption too, that
Correct.
needs to be
Yes, sir.
factored in as well.
So all that has to be looked at, and I'll say we'll be analyzing that, but that's a lot of analysis that still has to be done.
Do you
So
know-
I'm not saying we're committed to moving to this yet. These are our first 2 that we can take a look at.
Do we know the lifespan of the electric buses versus our current buses that we have?
We run buses for 15 years, and they do quite well, and then we rotate them off. They might stay another 2 or 3 years for just emergency. We're expecting the same from these. The battery life, we'll see on that, because the battery is the biggest cost on this. And so if the battery dies before 8 years, you got to replace that, and that's probably $100,000.
Well, and you're probably going to have to replace them all at the same time if they're all installed at the same time.
Yeah, so all that this is us taking a look at a grant where we got 2. That way we can say, when did these batteries die and when are they going to be replaced? You know, a salesperson can tell you how long it's going to last, but in actuality, I want to see what's happening before you really move in that commitment. So we need to look at this ourselves instead of just taking what they're telling us.
All right, fair enough.
Yes, sir. Good questions, all same that I have. I'm not totally convinced, but we can look at it with the grants and have 2 take a look. 22-10. This is a federal security grant. This was a grant we were awarded last year, but we have 3 years to spend it. We're estimating we're going to spend another $60,000 on that grant this year, and then we'll spend the remainder of it next year. So we'll budget the remainder in next year. But this was a 3-year grant in which to spend it down. Dr. Deuce is heading that up and adding extra security into each of our schools. And the one I mentioned earlier is that probably 2 weeks ago, we were awarded a security grant from the state. So that was not in our budget. That's $166,000. And so this would allow us to go ahead and spend that money in this current year on the projects that we applied for the state. I think we were quite surprised that they awarded us that much. We went after as much as we could. A lot of times you get $40,000. This time we got quite a bit of it. So I don't know if less people applied or our applications just look better than others, but
I think they
we're
just
very
printed
pleased with
more
that.
money.
What's that?
I believe they just printed more money this year.
And that's the supplementals, and then also the one I mentioned earlier was the reappropriation of the remaining balance from last year. And all these will go to the Board of Supervisors. I'll be at that meeting on the 24th if the board approves all these. Any more questions on any of those?
Do we need to take a motion to allow you to do that, or are you just?
I think we've allowed a motion to pass all the resolutions as presented. I don't know if you need to read each one at the very bottom. I've kind of talked through each one here, so it's on the record. And so I think you can pass all this. I think the one I would really prefer that you maybe pass separately and read is the reappropriation one. A little bit different than the supplemental, because you're asking Board of Supervisors to reappropriate the money from the last year that was left over.
Do I have a motion?
Madam Chairman, if I understand it correctly, I make a motion that we ask the Board of Supervisors to reappropriate funds from last year. And you want those two separate motions, correct?
Yes.
I think that's what I understood.
Do I have a second? Second by Mr. Nelms. Any discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries.
Now, Madam Chairman, I make a motion that we adopt the rest of the resolutions as presented.
I have a motion by Dr. Mealy. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second by Ms. Harrison. Any discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries.
And Madam Chairman, I
Yes,
misspoke there. They are supplemental appropriations, not resolutions. Ms. Johnson may want to correct that.
As we discussed earlier, we're talking about the core values, vision and mission.
Fuel bid, Madam?
Oh, fuel bid?
Yeah.
Hey, no, I just wanted to skip that. Dr. Dewis, I don't want to talk about gas. It costs too much right
You
now.
may want to skip that one. Each year, over the last many years, we have made a practice of soliciting bids for fuel prices so that we can lock in on a competitively bid price. It can be a constant then in the budget, planned around and help make our practice better. We found a lot of success with that. This year, we added propane to that list. We've always used some propane. In the upcoming year, we will use more because many of our new HVAC systems are running on propane rather than fuel oil, just as a cleaner, more efficient system. So we added, so we have unleaded gasoline and diesel fuel, heating oil, and propane in this that we solicited bids on. Turbulent times in this sector, and so we didn't really know what to expect. And however, we did get proposals today from two companies when we opened these bids about 3 o'clock this afternoon, so we could get the most current pricing from the vendors. Glenwood Oil and Gas bid on propane only. James River Solutions, that we're working with them in the current year, bid on the other items, the heating oil and diesel fuel and gasoline only. We did not bid on propane. Their bids are listed in board docs. I've highlighted in yellow, of course, the below bids, although in this case they are the only bids. And and so we ask for you to approve these bids and allow us to enter into this agreement with these two companies for a calendar year starting February 1st. Just as some context to this, the price we've been paying for the last year has been $1.67 per gallon for diesel fuel. And if this is approved, it will be $2.68. About $1 increase, about 60% increase. I don't think that's a surprise to anyone. It's a big number, but it's not surprising based on what we've seen. We've had an extremely good price for a number of months. The $2.68 is very close to what is currently the rack price, because I checked on that today just to see if we didn't adopt this and just went with what the market price was, what we should be paying. It's very close to this, and there's no guarantee in the future it wouldn't go up or down. But this would give us something to plan around. The propane price quoted is also slightly higher than the current propane rack price, but it's not substantially higher. It's fairly close. So we recommend approving this just as so that we can lock into this price, work with these companies, and have that budgeted number for starting February 1st. And be happy to answer any questions if there are some before a motion.
Mr. Hill? Yeah. So, Mac, based on new prices, run rate, and old prices, what kind of impact to the budget are we looking at go forward?
I'll have that for the board when we get into budget time. We just got these prices in today, but I look at our fuel consumption, and I'll plug these new prices in compared to what I have in budget.
Okay.
And it will have an impact on the budget. I just have not.
It doesn't change the price. I'm just trying to understand what is the impact.
It will have an impact to what.
It's going to have a huge impact.
Transportation fuel and diesel.
Okay.
We'll have two buses who won't use it.
That's right.
So, any reason why we only have two bidders? I mean, any feedback from other companies of why they're not participating?
That is disappointing anytime you put out bids to have limited submissions. I think this has to do with the volatility of the market. I think it has to do with demand, the ability what these companies do is lock in a price also. So it's very difficult for them to do that and be particularly competitive. So I just think it's an uncomfortable place for companies to be in at this point. And we're pleased to have gotten one company we've been working with and another local business who are interested in doing this for us. But you're right, and we of course wanted more. You always want to compare those numbers.
Madam Chairman.
Yes, Dr. Meehan.
Dr. Dewis, since we're going with the same company, if I understood you correctly, how are we going to address the lack of deliveries that we've had and the empty tanks that we've had using this company?
I think this company has been reliable, and we've understood when they haven't been able to meet a deadline. We understand why. To be honest, it's some of the same issues that in the labor market, COVID, impact on workforce, all of that we all are facing. At Huddleston Elementary, we do have a larger fuel tank on order, so that when we do get an order, it lasts longer and just mediates some of the up and down that a run on fueling will put on it. We'll follow that up quickly with a larger tank at I say quickly. We'll follow it up with another tank at Stand River Middle as well that's larger, so that we can address just having more on hand and less frequent deliveries. I think that will be more stable for our drivers and for fire and rescue to use their fuel. Those tanks are taking a long time to get delivered. After you asked the last time, we looked at this, and this tank is months in the making and delivery. and then it'll be installed as soon as we're able to get it on hand. So meeting all environmental requirements. It's not as fast as we want, but it's on the way. So I think those things will help. I think this company, having an established relationship with them, knowing who to call when and how that works, it will be effective.
And we're still letting drivers know whenever there is an outage.
Absolutely.
As soon as
we
possible.
can. Yeah.
Thank you so much.
Got a question, are the buses allowed to get fuel from, a convenience store or in a situation like that?
In an emergency situation, we would work something out. Another vendor might bring a load. If we haven't gotten to that point, and because we have promised in these year-long contracts,
right,
a certain expected usage. Mm-hmm. We try to honor that.
Try to meet that. Yeah.
Meet our end of the bargain.
Any further discussion? Okay, do we have a motion to accept the fuel bids?
Madam Chairman, I make a motion that we accept the fuel bids as presented to us by Dr. Dewis.
Have a motion by Ms. Harrison. Do I have a second?
Second.
I actually heard Mr. Leamy.
That's
Second by
fine.
Mr. Leamy. We'll call for a vote. All those in favor? Oh, I'm sorry, discussion, which we've already had. Okay, I'll call for a vote. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Accepting of the fuel bids passed. Now we'll move on to the adoption of the BCPS vision, mission, and core values. Dr. Bergen, did you have anything to say?
Yes, Madam Chair, this is just a follow-up to the information item earlier this evening. We explained to the board and the community the process we've been undergoing the last several months in the creation of a new strategic framework that would go into place next school year. So we're doing this in phases. So tonight, we would ask for the board's consideration of, we're proposing that we update our vision and mission statements and maintain the current core value statements. If you see the screen in front of you and to the viewing gallery, the screen above the board members, this is what it might look like. So Bedford County Public Schools, BCPS, Building Citizens Promoting Success would be the vision statement for Bedford County. And the mission statement would be Bedford County Public Schools will provide equal opportunities to enable all students to think critically, collaborate, create, communicate, and become productive citizens. So the word equitable will be changed to equal. The core values would remain the same, except we would update the word, well, we actually, if you can scroll some more, I think whoever has the mouse there. In the center, it's focus on students rather than focus on learners. This is what we're proposing for the board's consideration. It would replace the current vision and mission statements of empowering learners for future success as a vision statement, and the current mission statement that lists 5 bulleted points as to what we hope to accomplish for our learners. This would, again, go into effect next school year. And these statements would be the underpinning of the phase 2 of our work, which is develop goal statements that we'll bring back to you next month. And then after adoption of goal statements, we'll come back to you with strategies, resources, and measurable outcomes. And then it'll all be packaged together, and we'll take one formal vote on the entire strategic framework in June to be implemented July 1st. So, any questions from the board members about what we're proposing, or any concerns about what we're proposing?
No, I think it's a great job. No, I think it's a
No
great job.
questions? Do I have a motion then to accept the mission statement, proposed vision, mission, and core value statement with the change of changing the word equitable to equal? Do I have a motion? And
learner to student.
well, that was already changed
Okay.
on this document, but
Gotcha.
learners to students.
Madam Chairman, I make a motion that we accept the adoption, or adopt the BCPS vision, mission statement, and make the, and core values, and make the corrections of equitable to equal and learner to students.
I have a motion by Dr. Mealy. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second by Mr. Leamy. Any further discussion? Okay, call for a vote. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. Health and safety mitigation strategies, Dr. Bergen?
Yes, Madam Chair, this item is on the agenda at the request of multiple board members. We're about halfway through the school year, so we have staff on hand tonight to address any questions the board may have about our current health and safety mitigation procedures and to accept any direction from the school board on any changes you would like to implement in our health and safety mitigation plan.
Okay. I think our best course of action, and if there's any change, somebody let me know, but our standard procedure is to read the motion or call for a motion, have a second, then open up for discussion. And I think we can want to follow that guideline?
Yep.
That'd be fine. Okay. Do I have a motion regarding the health and safety mitigation strategies?
Madam Chair,
Yes, ma'am.
I move that based on a determination by the school board that requiring the universal masking of students is not practicable, that effective February 1st, 2022, the school board suspend its current masking requirement for all K through 12 students wearing masks while present at school or school-sponsored extracurricular activities. Masks are optional by parental and/or student choice.
I have a motion by Mr. Gill. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second by Mr. Holbrook. Discussion. No discussion?
I don't think anything's been said.
Anything?
Okay, I just want to make sure. So I do want to understand, for discussion, Dr. Bergen, how many students withdrew from Bedford County Public Schools after making the mask mandate?
385 withdrawals of students to homeschool or private school occurred right around the time of the board's motion back in August to require universal masking. I couldn't say with certainty that all 385 withdrew because of the actions of the board and that policy, but I think it's a reasonable assumption to say that the vast majority of those may have withdrawn at that time out of their concerns. And answer your question, was 385.
All right, how many accommodation requests were granted during that time?
Yeah. In addition to those 385 students, we received 272 requests for accommodations from universal masking. So, in answer to your question, Mr. Nelms, it's 272 across the school division. Combine those numbers, it's, in round figures, just north of 650 students, or about 7% of our population, expressed some concern about the policy of the board.
Is that 272 requests or 272 approved requests?
272 approved requests.
Out of how many?
I'm studying my notes here, Mr. Lemmy. We had 52 students who, there were 241 is the total that were originally proposed and acted upon. And there were 52 students that we were not able to initially have agreement about mask accommodations. So we had more conversation with those families. An additional 31 of those 52 then accepted the same accommodations as the first 241. 5 of those 52 requests withdrew to homeschool. 15 enrolled their children in virtual Virginia, including an additional 16th child who enrolled in virtual Virginia and came to school for their virtual Virginia instruction. So it's a grand total of 272.
Okay, so what you're telling me is that 272 were approved, correct?
Correct.
What you're telling me is all 272 were approved?
Yes.
Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Mr. Holbrook, did you have a question?
Yeah, I was, you know, do you think that the mask has caused the staff to be pulled from their primary duties? You know, trying to regulate all these, you know, the rules and regulations?
Yeah, it's certainly been challenging for our students and our administrators. We're, years into this COVID-19, and people from Wary, as you walk through any one of our schools, you'll frequently see students who are needing to be reminded to wear their mask as they were intended to be worn, to answer your question. So there's some amount of time being spent in the classroom by teachers and by administrators in redirecting students to follow the policy.
Mr. Lamy?
So if I understand you correctly, distilling it down, what you're saying is that you believe that instructional time is being taken away from the teachers by having to be the mask police.
There's definitely some challenges for our staff.
Yes.
I couldn't speak for all of our teachers, but sure,
Okay.
I'm sure there are teachers that are having to use instructional time to redirect students.
Okay, thank you.
Any further questions? Okay. I'll call for a vote. All those in favor of, would you read the motion again, please, Mr. Hill, just
Sure.
for clarification?
Move that based on a determination by the school board that requiring the universal masking of students is not practicable, that effective February 1st, 2022, the school board suspend its current masking requirement for all K through 12 students wearing masks while present at school or school-sponsored extracurricular activities. Masks are optional by parental and/or student choice.
All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed?
No.
Ms. Johnson, will you please poll the board?
Ms. Harrison?
No.
Mr. Hill?
Yes.
Mr. Holbrook?
Yes.
Mrs. Kirby?
Yes.
Mr. Leamy?
Yes.
Dr. Mealy?
No.
Mr. Nelms?
Yes.
The ayes have it with 5.
Madam Chair,
Yes, Mr. Hill?
I have another motion. Move that effective February 1st, 2022, the school board suspend its current practice of contact tracing for students and modify its practices accordingly in the division's safety and mitigation plan.
I have a motion by Mr. Hill. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second by Mr. Holbrook. Any discussion? Okay, we'll call for a vote. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed?
No.
Ms. Johnson, will you poll the board?
Ms. Harrison?
No.
Mr. Hill?
Yes.
Mr. Holbrook?
Yes.
Mrs. Kirby?
Yes.
Mr. Leamy?
Yes.
Dr. Mealy?
No.
Mr. Nelms?
Yes.
The ayes have it with 5.
Thank you.
Madam Chair,
Yes.
I have a motion. I move that all of the remaining health and safety mitigations continue to be implemented to include requiring individuals who are physically ill to isolate, masking on school buses per federal requirements, masking of staff per OSHA and VOSH regulations, daily parental health screenings for all students, daily health screenings for staff and visitors, enhanced daily cleaning of classrooms and restrooms, regular hand washing and respiratory etiquette, and physical distancing of 3 to 6 feet to the greatest extent practicable.
I have a motion by Mr. Hill. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second by Mr. Nelms. Any discussion?
I just want to make sure I understand. So we will retain the masks on buses. Students will be required to wear masks on buses to and from school or any activities. And that staff will still be required to wear masks.
Correct.
Well, it's not, staff is not required to wear masks per our first. It was, staff was
Due to
personal
OSHA
decision.
and Bosch.
Say again?
Due to OSHA and Bosch.
It's OSHA violation.
OSHA, currently.
We have to follow OSHA
You have to.
for staff to wear masks.
Madam Chairman, would you please get the board meeting in order and have the people stop talking?
Guys, keep it down.
It's because of OSHA.
Okay.
I thought that got,
But we can ask the question.
I thought the Supreme Court just shot down.
No,
No, that's the test, vaccine and
That was
testing
just the
mandate.
vaccine.
Oh, okay, gotcha. I stand corrected, thank you.
So I have a motion by Mr. Hill, I have a second by Mr. Nelms. We'll call for a vote. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
I didn't want to speak for you, but I thought I heard you second it.
Yeah.
Okay, I just want to make sure, okay.
We good?
Yeah, yeah.
Okay. All those opposed? It passes. Okay, move on to item number 10. Superintendent report. Dr. Bergen?
Yes, Madam Chair. So despite, having an extended winter break where we didn't have students and, well, a terrific winter break that our students and staff could be with families and loved ones, we still have plenty to celebrate since our last time that we were together. I'll ask our technology staff if they could put up the presentation. First of all, congratulations to Forest Middle School. They were selected for the Plant of the Moon Challenge. This is a global science experiment, learning activity, and inspirational project-based learning challenge to see who can grow the best crops using lunar regolith simulant. Forest Middle School will submit a report detailing their experiment setup, the parameters, and the results to help NASA scientists understand how to use lunar soil to provide nutritious crops for future missions to the moon. All participants with completed projects will be invited to showcase their work at a virtual symposium with NASA scientists, program executives, and other dignitaries, and there will be a Best in Show award presented to teams with the best experiments in a variety of categories. We'll certainly bring back, our fingers are crossed for Forest Middle School, and we'll bring back celebratory congratulations after they are chosen best plant pitch for the moon. As we shared earlier tonight in our public recognition of students and staff, we just couldn't be any more proud of Big Island Elementary School for their selection of just as one of only 2 schools in all of the Commonwealth of Virginia to be designated as a National ESEA Distinguished School for the 2021 school year, based on their exceptional student performance and academic growth for 2 consecutive years. The staff, as was shared earlier in this evening, is being recognized during the 2022 ESEA conference being held on February 16th to the 19th in New Orleans. Congratulations to Mr. Bliss and the entire Big Island staff. Someone advancing the slides for us?
We're having a technical issue.
How about the enter button? Does the enter button work? Thank you very much. Congratulations, Jefferson Forest High School. Their one-act version of Shakespeare's The Comedy of Errors was named VHSL Class 4 State Champions. This is JF's 3rd state championship in a row. You'll recognize some of these names from earlier recognitions. Prentice Patrick Carter, Sky Evans, Sarah Lynn Locks, and Michael Willis swept the Outstanding Actor recognition, which has never happened before. Way to go, JF Thespians. Has been mentioned several times by some of our public speakers and others, congratulations to our new school board members. Last month, just prior to the winter break, Marcus Hill, District 4 representative, was sworn in for his 2nd term on the school board, while Matt Holbrook, District 2, and Dwayne Nelms, District 3, took their first oaths of office, with Judge James Updike presiding at the Bedford County Circuit Courtroom. There were many other elected officials and county administrators, including myself and several other board members who were in attendance. Congratulations to these 3 gentlemen, and thank you for your service to our school division. And lastly, as you may be aware, Governor Northam has proclaimed this week, January 8 to 14, as Virginia School Principal Appreciation Week. I had the opportunity earlier this week during our regularly scheduled monthly meeting to extend my sincere thanks and appreciation to our hardworking principals. And I know that you, board members, and you, our parents, and our entire community are appreciative of the leadership that our principals provide. So if you've not done so already, I'd encourage everyone in attendance tonight, everyone viewing this meeting, please take a moment to let your principal know just how much you appreciate their leadership. Madam Chair, that concludes my remarks.
Thank you, Dr. Bergen. We'll move on to comments and concerns from school board members, and we'll start with Dr. Mealy.
Okay. I know we're not supposed to do this, I just can't help it. Thanks to all of our principals. They have an incredibly hard job. You just can't imagine, if you've never been in that seat, how many decisions you make in a day and how many times you come in and you just think, oh gosh, I have 3 hours today, I can actually get some office work done, and something blows up and that time goes away. And so they have an incredibly difficult job, and I truly appreciate everything they do. I would like to encourage any of the public that's listening, staff members, and especially our school board members, to participate in some of the focus groups that are currently going on. I participated in one today. I didn't really say, I think I only said one thing. Somebody asked me a question. I was just there really to listen. But it was so great to hear the ideas for the future goals of our county from parents and from former graduates. So I would just encourage you to participate there. There have to be at least 10 or 12 left to go. And you just go to the information Dr. Bergen sent us with regard to his evidence for his evaluation. The link is right there. Just open it up and you can click on any one of those to attend on the date and time that's indicated. It's just great. And I think it'll be so beneficial as we redesign our goal statements to address our future needs. So it was just a really nice experience today. And staff, I have to compliment you. It was really well done. It moved along. You didn't sit there like, it was, in fact, we ran out of time. We got into, or I didn't, but the group got into such good discussion. So I would just encourage you to do that. I'd also like to welcome Mr. Holbrook and Mr. Nelms, and Mr. Nelms and I will be doing financial stuff together, so I'm looking forward to that. Ms. Kirby, I just had one thing for you too. When we get emails to the board, are you gonna continue to answer them on behalf of the board?
Yes, ma'am. I'll follow the policies that we've established.
Okay, so just so to revisit it for the public, if you want to email us individually, if you want a specific answer from me, then you would have to email me. If you email all of us, then Ms. Kirby will answer on behalf of all of us. And that goes for anybody. If you want to speak to Mr. Nelms or Mr. Leamy, then you would want to address the email to them. I also want to thank Mr. Edwards for his recognition of the Big Island family. And the Big Island family, oh my gosh, that's like the biggest honor in the whole world. And I just think, it takes a whole school to do what they did. It's not just the teachers or just the principal or just anybody. It's the cafeteria workers who make sure that that food is there, and the custodians who make sure you have a clean environment, and the clerical staff, and the paraprofessionals, and just so much congratulations to all those people. And just a short continued thank you to our staff and our students. I know this is an incredible time that we're working through, and I just appreciate all that everyone is doing. Thank you, Madam Chairman.
Thank you, Dr. Mealy. Ms. Harrison?
Thank you, Madam Chairman. Again, I want to echo a welcome to Mr. Nelms and to Mr. Holbrook for joining us as school board members. Glad to have you guys on board with us. And also, again, this is probably my 5th or 10th time that I've said to Big Island Elementary School how just so very proud that we all are for just a wonderful accomplishment. This is just really huge for this school and for our county as a whole. And so again, just congratulations to the entire staff, the community, the parents, the students. What an honor, and I am just so very proud, so very proud. And also just another shout out to the principals. I had posted something on my Facebook page regarding Principal Appreciation Week. Again, to echo Dr. Mealy, the work of all educators is certainly one that can be difficult, that can certainly be a challenge. It's very rewarding. As a principal, you're kind of set out there sometimes on an island all by yourself. And I just wanted to say how very much I appreciate the principals here in Bedford County, our school district. I know they each work extremely hard, and so thank you for just a job well done. And you deserve every bit of recognition and honor, that's for sure. I want to give a shout out to Staten River High School girls basketball coach and team, Coach Kim Jones. I, along with I'm sure all board members and community members, are just so extremely proud of these girls and their efforts and all that they've done, the tenacity, the hard work. It is just really, really awesome. So congratulations to you all, and keep it up, keep it up. I'm rooting for you. And I'm also looking forward to attending the Cavalier Theater's production on Alice in Wonderland. Looking forward to that this weekend. Hopefully the snow won't interfere, but I am making plans to take my granddaughter with me to see that, so I'm looking forward to that. Also wanted I wanted to tell the teachers, my teacher friends and others out there that I'm rooting for snow. So I've got lots of snowballs and snow globes and snowmen around my home. And I plan on putting some cubes of ice. You know where that goes the night before. So I will be doing that because I am hoping that we're going to get this snow, because I know how much the teachers and students appreciate the snow and having snow days. So that's all that I have. Okay.
Thank you, Ms. Harrison. Mr. Holbrook? Mr. Nelms?
I don't really have any comments. I'm just still learning and gaining knowledge and wisdom from you all. So just appreciate everybody, all the support. Just want to say I'm extremely humbled to be here.
Thank you. Mr. Lamy?
Welcome, Mr. Holbrook and Mr. Nelms, especially you, Mr. Nelms, as now I won't be lonely on the front row during photographs. Be right down there with me. Shout out to Big Island, you rock. Keep up the good work. I'm glad to see we're able to get a couple of things done that have been kind of a rock in my shoe over the years. First thing, main thing being public comment extension. I mean, we should be listening to what you say and taking it to heart, and this gives us greater opportunity for that to happen. And then masking optional, one step closer to getting back to real life. That's all I got.
Thank you, Mr. Lamy. Mr. Hill?
Welcome, Dwayne. Welcome, Matt. I'm certainly thankful that District 2 and District 3 put you here. I wanted to also mention JF Cavalier, Alice in Wonderland. Go see it tonight through Saturday. Based on what I'm seeing, Sunday's 3 p.m. showing has been changed to Saturday, 3 p.m. So still an extra show that you can go see. Reminder of community Zoom meetings. Links are on the social media pages as well. And I've already had somebody ask me today. I did join the call. I was only able to do it for about 15 minutes. And then they said, Dr. Mealy, that you joined afterwards. And they're like,
oh, really?
Was that on purpose that you dropped and Dr. Mealy
no,
joined?
You know,
So
I had a note on my refrigerator. And of course, what did I do? Walk by to get water and go, oh my gosh. Then it was about 15 minutes late.
So I wanted to say that was not on purpose. Staten River girls, much love and respect to Coach Jones and the Lady Eagles. Not only do they play basketball, but they are a community. They support each other. They make each other better. If you haven't been around Coach Jones and those girls, I highly recommend go see a game. go be part of that atmosphere, that culture that she's driving. I can't say enough about her and those girls. One thing that Ms. Hairston forgot to mention, she mentioned the ice cubes, but from what I'm being told, you're supposed to turn your pajamas backwards. Okay, so I wanted to make sure everybody had that for a good snow day.
Absolutely.
So, just a reminder, parents are welcome in our schools. And that policy is in place. I'm not sure, I had a staff member remind me tonight, parents are welcome. And so we want you in our schools. So please don't think there's a policy keeping you out. I need you to hear that loud and clear that parents are welcome. So, I'm going to remain here afterwards. I've heard lots of people comment that, you know, I'm glad and thankful we're going to extend that time for public comments. I'll be here. I'm going to stay. If you have questions, you have comments, I will be here until I talk to whoever wants to speak or has questions or comments, et cetera. So I just wanted to offer that. I'm sure other board members will do the same. And then I have to say this because I took the challenge from Dr. Mealy. But I invite anyone and everyone, I want to use the word everyone, to go to the doe.virginia.gov website where you will see the banner. Virginia is for learners.
Right, but you have to read on as to why.
No,
it's
there.
You can't make up alternative facts. You can't make up alternative facts. You have to read why they say that. I knew they said it, but that's not what we're using it for.
Mr. Leamy always used to say, by the time it gets here, you sound like a broken record, and so here go the skips and breaks. Welcome, Mr. Holbrook. Welcome, Mr. Nelms. Good to have you on board. Welcome back, Mr. Hill. Couldn't imagine it without you.
Thank you.
At this point. And I want to thank everyone here for electing me as chair. Appreciate your trust in me, and be patient with me while I still learn the ins and outs. Again, I'm going to echo everyone. Congratulations to Big Island and all the accomplishments that we recognize tonight. And I hope they all keep on doing great things. We appreciate every single principal out there. Principals, assistant principals. I know you're going through a lot, especially now, and we do appreciate the work you do. It's interesting to me, I'm sure most everybody in here does social media at some point. And when you go back and you look at your memories from a year ago, 5 years ago, 1 year ago, around this time, we were fighting for the kids to have the right to play sports and for the right to parent, for the right of parents to choose to mask their children. It's taken us a year, but we've gotten here. I am respectful of COVID. I am glad that we decided to keep the other mitigating factors in there. But I'm glad that we have our choice. Echoing Ms. Harrison, I'm glad she brought it up, and Mr. Hill mentioned her. Coach Jones at Stanton River, she's awesome. She really is awesome, and that group of girls. And on top of that, I want to say congratulations to the 2021 Hall of Fame inductees at Stanton River. I attended that ceremony. It's good to see people coming back and living. My mother used to call your high school days your glory days. And it was wonderful to see them coming back and living their glory days. And I just want to follow up with one question, and if someone could remind me, I know we had talked about the possibility of looking at lines for redistricting. When can we get some type of update on that?
We'll engage the new facilities committee in that conversation and ask them to participate in that conversation, come back to the full board with some.
Great, thank you so much. And I have nothing further, and I know it's before 10 o'clock, but you know, we're going to break a rule tonight. Do I have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
I have a motion by Mr. Hill. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second by Ms. Harrison. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Meeting's adjourned. Yay.